Hello, hello, hello. Happy Monday. Happy Monday, everybody. Just made it. It's 4:24. Almost made 4:20. But man, there was so much. I had to switch up again. The last couple of times I've come on, I've had a whole plan for something I want to do. I hope I'll get to it. I've been wanting to watch the Tim Waltz fraud case with Larry Ellison, but there's just new stuff that just keeps popping up, and it's putting that behind, which seems to be what happens to most news that they don't want you to see. They put so much news out that you get overwhelmed with news, and the important stuff gets buried, gets buried, gets buried. Kind of like this first topic that I do have, which will be Mandami and the IED threats that he had. It unfolded really fast. It started off, and I'll show it all down the line for you, but it started off as finding some devices all the way down to ISIS and arrests. So we'll get into that. Um, man, if anybody heard or watched Jesse Jackson's funeral over the weekend, three sitting presidents or three presidents and Kamala Harris spoke. Now, I watched Joe Biden speak. I didn't watch any of the other ones. I watched clips of some of them, but apparently and obviously, Jesse Jackson's son was not very thrilled that they turned it into a political bashing. So we'll definitely get into that. Of course, there's Iran, and hopefully, and then there was just a sting done with an AG out of Florida that we'll get into, we'll show. And then him and Sheriff Grady did a sting together. So we got a nice little show ahead of us. I'm about to get into it now. Let's start with Mandami, and I'm just gonna work my way down. Hope everybody's doing well. Hit the like, share, subscribe on your way in. Happy Monday. Oops. Happy Monday. Happy yeah. So let's go. Like I said, this I went so fast. It was like 1 minute, 3 devices. 2 minutes, devices already found. Like, whoa. Or they already got the suspects.
Are conducting limited evacuations of the buildings in the vicinity. CB Cotton is at the scene with the latest. Hi, CB.
Hey, Alicia. Well, we're here at the intersection of East 79th Street and East End Avenue, about 10 blocks from where all the chaos really unfolded yesterday outside Gracie Mansion, which is the home of New York City Mayor Zoran Mamdani. I actually want to step out of the way so you guys can get a better view of what we're seeing here behind me, because it's further down this street where the action is really taking place. They've sort of blocked us off here, though. So I'm going to step out of the way so you guys can see, and my photojournalist is going to push in down East End Avenue between 81st Street and 82nd Street. We have been told that officers have located a third suspicious device in a car that is thought to belong to one of two suspects who were taken into custody yesterday in connection with two other suspicious devices. So now we've got a total of 3 suspicious devices that have been uncovered here in the Big Apple. And we know at this point from high-level sources and from the NYPD that at least one of the devices that has been confiscated is a confirmed IED. Fox has been talking to high-level sources all throughout the day, and we actually learned today that one of the IEDs that was taken into custody yesterday had an explosive called triacetone triperoxide, or known as TATP. Fox News contributor Paul Morrow talked about this earlier today, and he said this is an explosive that has been used in other high-profile deadly terrorist attacks across the globe. And so he really he talked repeatedly about how it couldn't be stated enough that New York City really avoided something potentially catastrophic here yesterday. So just to bring our viewers up to speed, there are two men now in custody, Amir Balat and Ibrahim Kayumi. They are both around 18, 19 years old. I have learned from a high-level federal source that both men are in federal custody and now being interviewed by the FBI in connection to these devices. A source has told our Bill Malusian that both men are U.S. citizens. And so the NYPD Commissioner Jessica Tisch, she talked about how this all unfolded yesterday. She explained that there were two dueling protests. One protest was an anti-Muslim protest, and the counter protest was a anti-Nazi, stop the Nazi protest. Clashes got underway, and that is when we saw things really escalate. Commissioner Tisch says one of the men threw what appeared to be a suspicious device, and people saw smoke and flames go up in the air. She says that man later ran down the block, got a second device from another person and ignited that second device. And she later explained that both of these men were taken into custody, and we now know their names as Ibrahim Kayumi and Amir Balat. Again, they are both being interviewed by the FBI. And the latest that we see here on the ground is that members of the NYPD bomb unit and other high-level officers are out here looking at a car believed to be connected with one of these two men that has a third suspicious device that has been located here today.
And CB, just in the area right around you and where this investigation is underway, are there evacuations that have occurred inside the neighborhood? Are they clearing people out of that area other than freezing the area, is what we've called it?
So we've been talking to a lot of the neighbors that live out here. This is, people know this area as New York City's Yorkville neighborhood. It's a very affluent part of the city, lots of high-end residential properties. And this is all coming as quite a shock to the people who call this area home. They are actually, many of them are being told they can't go back to their residence right now while police continue their work here down the street. A couple neighbors have told me they've not been given a time frame as to when they will be able to return home. So lots of the people who live here are very shaken up, very anxious. This really, marking another tense moment in what's been a chaotic week for the people who live right near Gracie Mansion.
CB, I know you said that both of these individuals are American citizens. Do you have any idea if they're naturalized, birthright, if they were born here, came here from somewhere else? If so, where from? Do you have any other information on their background?
Yeah, Joey, that is a great question. And that's something that our Bill Malusian is looking into, communicating with his federal sources. All we know at this point is that the two men are U.S. citizens, but he is inquiring as to whether they are naturalized U.S. citizens. I will point out that the New York Post is describing and reporting from its sources that the two men were self-radicalized, and at least one of the men spoke to law enforcement about watching ISIS videos. Again, that is reporting from the New York Post, but I think it's pretty interesting context given what we are seeing and learning here on the ground.
Certainly. CB, from what we can tell, this is leftover from yesterday with that clash of the protesters and the counter-protesters and everything that was going on. And I know that they have this area frozen, but from your NYPD sources and other reporting on the ground, do you get the sense that there is an ongoing threat in terms of that general area, the rest of the city? We talked to Paul Morrow earlier about potential other IEDs being planted other places. Do you have any more information for New Yorkers out there that are feeling a little bit uncomfortable today?
Yeah, important question, Tommy. So based on what I'm seeing here on the ground, the posture from law enforcement doesn't lead me to believe that there is an ongoing active threat to the people who live in this neighborhood or New York City as a whole. Certainly, it is still concerning to hear that some type of suspicious device was located inside this vehicle. But based on the way officers are moving, they're moving sort of slow, milling about this area. It doesn't look like there is an ongoing or active threat. It appears like these officers are trying to take an abundance of caution and make sure that this device is safely removed and transported to another area.
Hey, CB, it's Joe Concha. Having lived on 96th Street, not too far from there, 80th, 81st East End Ave is not like a heavily trafficked area, right? I get that Gracie Mansion is there. That is the home of the mayor. But at the same time, the Boston bombers, reportedly had targeted Times Square, for example, with devices similar to these, because that's obviously a high target area in terms of people being in one place. East End and 80th is basically a quiet neighborhood. And given that Zahler Mamdani isn't exactly aligned with President Trump on the Iran war, he's spoken out very passionately against it. A lot of this, probably to folks at home, isn't making a lot of sense in terms of Gracie Mansion being the only major so-called target in that area, considering who the resident is and how he feels about the Iran war, which appears to be aligned with, say, somebody who would be sympathetic with ISIS.
Yeah, that's interesting context that you bring up, Joe. This is definitely not a high traffic area. Again, lots of affluent families over here with young children, some elderly families. It's very quiet, and I walk through this area a lot. So it's not what you would think of as a typical target. But I should point out that the two men taken into custody were described by NYPD Commissioner Jessica Tisch as counter-protesters, as a part of the group that showed up to counter the anti-Muslim protest. So that might be more enlightening as to what could be seen as potential motivations with this ongoing investigation. Perhaps they weren't targeting Gracie Mansion. Perhaps it was the anti-Muslim protest that they were really eyeing. Again, we have to wait and see what details come out, but that is context I want to share.
CB, I know we have to let you go, but I have one question for you, because while the four of us up here all work in this city off and on or all the time, you live in this city all the time. And when you consider the New York Post reporting that one of these suspects told law enforcement that they were self-radicalized, and now we're talking about IEDs in the city of New York as a resident of this city, how does that strike you? How does that hit you when you're here every day?
Alicia, it hits really close to home. I go to Carl Schurz Park every day that I'm off work. This is an area that me and my husband walk through consistently. It's very alarming. And I texted him today, my husband, and I asked if he was okay, because he was going on a walk to the park that's in this neighborhood. So people are very concerned. It's very alarming.
Yeah, totally understandable. Thank you, CB.
Be sure to like and subscribe for all the Fox News latest on YouTube. And
Good morning. On Saturday, a protest was held outside Gracie Mansion, where I live with my wife, Rama. Neither of us were home at the time. This was a vile protest rooted in white supremacy entitled "Stop the Islamic Takeover of New York City." I'm the first Muslim mayor of...
I've got to pause it already, dude. We're only 1 minute in. He already said... Did he not just blame white supremacy for this? Chat, let me know. Did he just blame white supremacy for this? When we know already that it was two ISIS members. They were not white supremacists. Why is he doing this? Is it division possible?
Our city. Anti-Muslim bigotry is nothing new to me, nor is it anything new for the 1 million or so Muslim New Yorkers who know this city as our home. While I found this protest appalling, I will not waver in my belief that it should be allowed to happen. Ours is a free society where the right to peaceful protest is sacred. It does not belong only to those we agree with. It belongs to everyone. I will defend that right every day that I am mayor, even when those protesting say things that I abhor. Let me also be clear about something else. New York City will never tolerate violence, whether from protests or counter-protests. Many of the counter-protesters met this display of bigotry peacefully, with a vision of a city that is welcoming to all. But a few did not. Two men, Amir Balat and Ibrahim Kayumi, traveled from Pennsylvania and attempted to bring violence to New York City. They are suspected of coming here to commit an act of terrorism. There is video of these two individuals throwing two devices towards the protest. The police department has determined that these were improvised explosive devices made to injure, maim, or worse. Thanks to the swift and decisive actions of NYPD officers at the scene, both men were immediately taken into custody, and the devices they brought taken off of our streets. I want to commend the officers who were on site. They faced a chaotic situation that very quickly could have become far more dangerous. NYPD Chief Aaron Edwards and Sergeant Luis Navarro ran towards the danger so that others could run to safety. They are here with us now, and I want to thank them today publicly as I did yesterday privately, and to thank the dozens of other officers who responded without hesitation. That is courage, that is selflessness, and I'm deeply grateful to both of them and to every member of the NYPD who works every single day to keep New Yorkers safe. As the NYPD continued their investigation yesterday, they found a third suspicious device in a vehicle on East End between 81st and 82nd Street. Out of an abundance of caution, they conducted a number of limited evacuations of nearby buildings before removing the device from the area. Once the device was removed, those evacuated were allowed to return to their homes. I am grateful for their continued work to keep New Yorkers safe. And let me say this plainly. Anyone who comes to New York City to bring violence to our streets will be held accountable in accordance with the law. As this case continues to develop, I will remain in close contact and communication with our police commissioner. I want to say thank you once again to everyone who acted on Saturday to protect their fellow New Yorkers and to uphold the values of this city. Now, I would like to invite Police Commissioner Tisch to say a few words.
Thank you, Mayor. Good morning, everyone. First, I will tell you that we are not at liberty to discuss many aspects of the ongoing investigation at this time due to the pending prosecution. The suspects here, Amir Balat and Ibrahim Kayumi, are going to be prosecuted in federal court here in Manhattan, and a complaint will set forth criminal charges and the factual allegations supporting those charges. After that complaint is made public, which I expect to occur later today, I will be able to say much more about the investigation and what we have learned in this case. But it is crucial that we respect that process and not get ahead of it. That being said, I can confirm this morning that this is being investigated as an act of ISIS-inspired terrorism. I can also provide some additional information building on my remarks from Saturday evening. At that time, we were beginning to conduct preliminary analysis of two devices that were ignited and deployed earlier that day, one in a crosswalk on East End Avenue and East 87th Street, and the other on the west side of East End Avenue between East 86th and East 87th Streets. That testing was performed by the NYPD's bomb squad and FBI special agent bomb technicians in consultation with an FBI chemist. Preliminary test results determined that these were not hoax devices nor smoke bombs. They were improvised explosive devices that could have caused serious injury or death. Part of our initial investigation was to determine what energetic substance, if any, was used in the two devices. And our analysis showed that one of the devices deployed by the subjects contained the substance triacetone triperoxide, known as TATP. Now, TATP is a dangerous and highly volatile homemade explosive that has been used in IED attacks around the world. Our bomb squad then rendered safe both devices. And as of now, Explosive evidence samples are being sent to an FBI lab for further testing. Our investigation also led our detectives to a vehicle that was tied to the suspects. And yesterday afternoon, patrol officers found that car, a black 2010 Honda with New Jersey plates on East End Avenue between East 81st Street and East 82nd Street. Using a robot, the NYPD's bomb squad was able to find another possible suspicious device and materials inside the car consistent with the first two explosive devices, and the area was immediately frozen and cleared. A limited evacuation of certain floors and certain nearby buildings was conducted while the officers secured the vehicle and removed this third device, which was transported to Rodman's neck for further testing. This third device tested negative for explosive material. Once the scene was secure and deemed safe, residents were allowed to return to their homes. Now, we have been in a heightened state of alert in New York City since the start of hostilities in Iran, and we remain in that posture today. We will continue to deploy additional counterterrorism resources throughout New York City, including heavy weapons teams, K-9 units, aviation, and more. The NYPD is vigilant and determined in our unceasing efforts to ensure the safety of this city and the security of its 8.5 million residents. We also cannot lose sight of how serious this situation was. The last time that an IED targeting people was deployed in New York City was in 2017 when Akayed Ullah detonated a device strapped to his torso in the pedestrian underpass connecting the Port Authority bus terminal and the Times Square subway station. No one other than the attacker was injured in that incident. And once again, we were fortunate that the devices used this weekend did not cause the kind of harm that they were certainly capable of causing. But luck is never a strategy. Devices like these have the potential to cause devastating harm, which is why the NYPD does thorough counterterrorism investigations and treats every incident of this kind with the highest level of urgency and care. And it is why we remain vigilant. The safety and security of the entire city ultimately rests on the judgment and the courage of the men and women of the NYPD. And on Saturday, we saw that in its truest form. When those devices were ignited in the middle of a crowded protest, officers did not step back, they stepped forward. With me today are two of those officers, Assistant Chief Aaron Edwards and Sergeant Louis Navarro, who ran toward a lit IED without hesitation and without regard for their own safety. Acting as police officers do, on instinct and training to protect people they did not know and would likely never meet. Moments like that remind us what policing truly requires, because behind every counterterrorism operation, every bomb squad response, every emergency call that sends officers running towards danger, there are human beings who make the decision to step forward when others are running away. Chief Edwards has been a uniform officer for nearly 23 years. He is, as of December, our newly minted borough chief in Manhattan North. Chief Edwards joined this department after witnessing the heroism of NYPD officers on September 11th. And on Saturday, we saw that same spirit carried forward in the way that he responded. Sergeant Navarro has spent the past 11 years serving the city he grew up between Puerto Rico and New York, eventually settling in Washington Heights and the Bronx, and joined the NYPD after a close friend encouraged him to take the exam. On Saturday, he and Chief Edwards responded with the calm judgment and professionalism that situations like this demand. Together, they represent the dozens of cops who were safeguarding that protest Saturday afternoon and the nearly 35,000 members of this department who stand watch over New York City every day. Our entire city owes all of them a debt of gratitude, and although I've said it to them many times already, I will never tire of it. Thank you for your service. We'll now take some questions.
All right, thank you, everyone. We have time for a few questions. We'll start with Jake, AP, right here. Right here. Sorry, we have a microphone too.
Are you drowning in payday loan debt? Have you taken out multiple payday loans and are unable to pay them back? Then listen.
I know you can't really go into so much detail at this point, but given that you are saying this is an act of ISIS-inspired terrorism or being investigated, can you give
Sorry,
us?
could you just speak up a little bit more?
Yeah. Can you just give us any sense as to what information you may have to indicate that this is, possibly ISIS-inspired? Also, the commissioner mentioned the heightened state of alert related to the war in Iran. Any indication at this point that there's a connection? And then just also, do you know why they wanted to come to New York in this protest in particular?
So I'll pass this over to our commissioner to answer some of the specifics.
So, Jake, at this time, we do not have any information that connects this investigation to what's going on overseas in Iran. As to the other questions that you posed, I don't want to say anything that could introduce prejudice into the prosecution or do anything that will make the prosecutors' jobs more difficult. What I can say is that the complaint, I expect, will be unsealed later this afternoon. And once that happens, I will be at greater liberty to discuss and answer the questions that you pose.
Thank you. We'll go to Andrew Sef now.
Mayor, you said you were not home at the time of this incident. Can you tell us where you were, how you learned about this incident, and what went into your thought process about why you didn't speak about this publicly, either on Saturday when the commissioner did or on Sunday?
So we had known that this was a protest that was scheduled for over a week. And I had known that there were precautions being taken, and I'm incredibly appreciative of the work that the NYPD both did in advance, as well as the work that we've spoken about having happened on the day and since then. My wife and I were at the New York City Sign Museum in Brooklyn at the time. We continued to be kept up to date as to what was going on both in the midst of the protest and the aftermath of the protest. And we also wanted to ensure that we were able to address New Yorkers directly and clearly with all of the facts as we had them, especially given how fast moving this has been. Wanted to ensure that we had all of that together.
Thank you. We'll go to Catherine, CNN.
Hi, good morning. Wondering if prior to the protest, there was any credible threats online from these individuals, anything that you could see from their social media presence, anything like that leading up to it, that you'd know that they'd be traveling from Pennsylvania to attend this?
Again, preliminary investigation, and you're going to learn a lot more as the complaint is unsealed, but nothing at this time that would have suggested that.
Thank you. We have time for one more question. Emma, go ahead right here in the front.
Has the team finished going through the devices of the two men associated? And also, is there anything known about a possible third individual who was with them?
Those devices are currently being investigated. So that process is ongoing, and we have no information about a possible third individual with them at this time.
Thank you guys so much.
Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to One Police Plaza, home to the greatest police department in the world. Earlier today, I provided an update on the investigation into explosive devices that were ignited and deployed on Saturday during protests outside of Gracie Mansion. We can now share that federal charges have been filed in the Southern District of New York against two individuals, Amir Balat and Ibrahim Kayumi, in connection with that attack. The defendants are charged with attempting to provide material support to ISIS, using a weapon of mass destruction, transporting explosive materials, interstate transportation and receipt of explosive materials, and unlawful possession of destructive devices. The complaint sets forth the factual allegations supporting those charges. As alleged in the complaint, the defendants were inspired by ISIS to carry out their attack. There should be no confusion about what ISIS constitutes. It is a designated foreign terrorist organization responsible for deadly terrorist attacks across the globe and has taken credit for mass casualty attacks in Europe, the Middle East, and right here in the United States. And as alleged, both defendants have admitted that they acted on Saturday because of ISIS. As Kayumi was being placed into an NYPD vehicle following his arrest, a person in the crowd asked why he had done this. As shown on NYPD body-worn camera footage referenced in the complaint, Kayumi responded with ISIS. And at the precinct, after being advised of his Miranda rights and waiving those rights, Kayumi said in recorded post-arrest statements that he had watched ISIS propaganda on his phone and that his actions that day were partly inspired by ISIS. The complaint also details statements made by Amir Balat after his arrest. En route to the NYPD precinct, Balat made spontaneous statements without being questioned by NYPD officers that were captured on body-worn camera footage. He said, "This isn't a religion that just stands when people talk about the blessed name of the prophet. We take action, as well as, if I didn't do it, someone else will come and do it." And later, after waiving his rights, he requested paper and wrote a message declaring in part, "I pledge my allegiance to the Islamic State. Die in your rage, you kuffar." Now, die in your rage is a commonly known ISIS slogan, and kuffar is an Arabic term that refers to non-believers. He also told investigators that he had hoped to carry out an attack even bigger than the Boston Marathon bombing, which he noted resulted in only 3 deaths. These statements, as set forth in the complaint, make clear that this was not random violence. This was a planned attack motivated by extremist ideology and inspired by a violent foreign terrorist organization. The complaint alleges not only why the defendants acted, but how. Preliminary testing has determined that one of the devices contained triacetone triperoxide, or TATP, also commonly referred to as Mother of Satan, a highly volatile explosive that has been used in multiple terrorist attacks over the last decade. As we have previously discussed, the NYPD identified a vehicle yesterday on East End Avenue that was linked to the defendant.
Did they just say that the name of that bomb was the Mother of Satan? What a name. Thanks for bringing the Mother of Satan to New York City.
Inside that vehicle, investigators recovered handwritten notes referencing TATP explosive and listing chemical ingredients for the type of explosive device used by the defendants on Saturday. Make no mistake, what happened this weekend was incredibly dangerous, and the ongoing investigation will be exhaustive. From the first moments of that investigation, the NYPD has been working seamlessly with our federal partners, many of whom have joined us here. In particular, the FBI's Joint Terrorism Task Force, which includes NYPD detectives working alongside federal agents. They have been at the center of this investigation. Members of the FBI and the Joint Terrorism Task Force, including NYPD task force officers, have executed search warrants at Kayumi and Balat's residences in Pennsylvania. Another important note, the 2 defendants arrived in New York City roughly 1 hour before they were arrested. According to our investigation, they crossed the George Washington Bridge with a license plate reader ping at 11:36 a.m. on Saturday, parked in front of 48 East End Avenue between 81st and 82nd Streets at 12:05 p.m. and walked to the protest. They ignited and threw the devices at approximately 12:15 p.m. and were immediately arrested thereafter. I want to thank our great United States Attorney Jay Clayton for his extraordinary partnership, as well as the prosecutors from SDNY for everything that they do, especially for their work on this investigation and their forthcoming prosecution. I also want to thank the FBI, especially James Barnacle, Assistant Director in charge of the FBI New York Field Office, and Rob Cassane, the FBI's Special Agent in charge for counterterrorism, as well as the Joint Terrorism Task Force. We are grateful always for the FBI agents and Assistant U.S. Attorneys who have been working around the clock with us since Saturday. Finally, and most importantly, I want to recognize the members of the NYPD who responded on Saturday and in the hours that followed. The officers assigned to that protest who ran toward a lit, improvised, explosive device, the bomb squad technicians who secured and analyzed the devices, the detectives and analysts who worked through the night to develop this investigation, and the countless members of service who helped ensure the security of the people of New York City during a very tense and dangerous situation. The NYPD remains on heightened alert, and our mission is simple, and that is to keep New Yorkers safe. That responsibility belongs to the nearly 35,000 members of this department who stand watch over this city and who are prepared to respond whenever and wherever danger appears. On Saturday, we saw that commitment in action. Thank you. Now I will turn it over to our United States Attorney, Jay Clayton.
Thank you, Commissioner Tisch. I'm very proud to be here today with Commissioner Tisch and Director Barnacle, representing this joint effort to keep our city safe. And I'm going to pick up where the commissioner left off. I watched the video of New York Police Department officers running to the danger, knowing that these might be explosive devices, knowing that they might explode. That is the kind of commitment that makes this city great. Thank you. Thank all your officers. It's tremendous. It makes me so proud as a New Yorker. As Commissioner Tisch noted, we charged 2 individuals today, Balat and Kayumi. They are charged federally with 5 counts: attempted provision of material support and resources to a designated foreign terrorist organization, use of a weapon of mass destruction, transportation of explosive materials, interstate transportation and receipt of explosives, and unlawful possession of destructive devices. The facts alleged in the complaint are just that, allegations. In our great system of justice, they must be proven, and the defendants have the presumption of innocence. Commissioner Tisch did an exceptional job outlining the facts alleged in the complaint. These were ISIS-inspired actions, and it is chilling that they wanted to do something more than the Boston Marathon, more than 3 deaths. Free speech and peaceable assembly are the bedrock of American democracy. But violence is not protected. And it's not protected protest. It's not protected speech. In New York, violence, particularly violence that has a terrorist bent, violence that is meant to chill free speech, violence that is meant to keep us from assembling peaceably.
Meet EM Sense, a breakthrough in foot therapy that wraps around your foot and ankle like a therapeutic boot.
Will be met with swift justice. This investigation remains ongoing, and we encourage anyone with further information to contact the FBI at 1-800-CALL-FBI, C-A-L-L-FBI. In closing, I want to express my deep gratitude for, again, the NYPD and all of those folks in my office who immediately answered the call and worked around the clock. In particular, the heads of our National Security and International Narcotics Unit, Eleanor Tarlow and Jason Richmond, and our line U.S. attorneys, who I don't think have slept, which is why we are here so quickly, Jonathan Bodonsky and Jane Chong. Thank you all very much. I'll now turn it over to Director Barnacle.
Thank you, U.S. Attorney Clayton. My name is James Barnacle. I'm the Assistant Director in charge of the FBI's New York Field Office. Today, alongside our partners in New York City Police Department and the Southern District of New York, our office has announced federal terrorism charges against Amir Balat and Ibrahim Kayumi. On Saturday, March 7th, these two individuals allegedly threw one suspicious device and attempted to throw another during a protest outside Gracie Mansion. As the commissioner noted, if it weren't for the bravery of two New York's finest, we could have had a much more tragic incident. Yesterday, on Sunday, March 8th, a third device was recovered from a vehicle on East End Avenue. Upon careful analysis by NYPD bomb techs and FBI Special Agent bomb technicians, it was determined that these items were improvised explosive devices, IEDs, designed to inflict serious injury and death to those in the vicinity of the intended blast zone. Both subjects have stated they were inspired by ISIS, a designated terrorist organization, to conduct this attack. Balat and Kayumi sought to incite fear and mass suffering through this alleged attempted terror attack in the backyard of an elected city official. This weekend was just another example of the elevated threat environment we're currently living in. Let me be clear. The FBI will not tolerate those who use violence against targets in New York City to broadcast their terroristic ideologies. This would not have been possible. The outcome we're talking about today would not have been possible without the FBI's New York Joint Terrorism Task Force, led by Special Agent in Charge Rob Hussein, our Special Agent Bob technicians, as well as our partners at the NYPD and the Southern District of New York. I would like to thank Commissioner Jessica Tisch for your department's unwavering partnership, and especially for the bravery of your officers who ran towards danger to protect this city and our residents. Thank you, U.S. Attorney Clayton, for your team's determination to bring weighty criminal charges against these defendants and hold them accountable for the reprehensible actions from this past weekend. Additionally, I'd like to extend my appreciation to the Customs and Border Protection, the Port Authority Police Department, the New York State Police, Homeland Security Investigations, as well as the FBI divisions in Newark, New Jersey, and Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. Those offices assisted us throughout the weekend. The collective efforts across all these agencies, including those who could not join us today, thwarted a potentially devastating day in this city. Rest assured, the FBI and the New York City Police Department remain at the ready to defend the homeland against anyone seeking to harm our community. We're continuing to chase down all leads and tips in this ongoing investigation. As U.S. Attorney mentioned, anyone that has tips out there, we encourage you to call the FBI at 1-800-CALL-FBI, or you can submit your tips online at fbi.gov. Thank you. Turn it over to Commissioner for any questions.
All right, so we will now take any questions you have on topic only, please. We will do our best to answer, but as I mentioned at the earlier press conference today, we may be limited in some of the things we can say because we don't want to say anything that will in any way make these fine prosecutors' work more difficult.
Thank you, Commissioner. Again, we do on-topic questions. Go to Gloria first.
Thank you very much. I hear what you said about what the individuals stated regarding ISIS, but do you have any information yet about whether they were self-radicalized or actually recruited by ISIS? And is there anything you can say about whether they were targeting anything or any person specifically? The mayor said earlier today that it was known this protest was going to take place for about a week. So did they come here specifically to target that group, or were they targeting the mayor, any other group?
So we're not going to be able to answer the
To the person that I had to just kick out for saying that this was Donald Trump's fault and the white supremacist, did you not, would you just listen to his very first like 5 minutes of his speech and go, it was the white supremacists. It was the white supremacists. No, it was some Muslims. yelling, for ISIS. It has nothing to do with Trump. It has nothing to do with anything you guys are saying. Do you guys ever separate any type of incident and be able to tell, like, your guys's man, you guys can't see, like, what is man, you guys have a hard time seeing the truth. A lot of you guys need to say a prayer so you can get some discernment, because your discernment is really, really, really low. And I'm really trying to show you guys this stuff so you can see the propaganda, so you can see the lies. Not all of this is true. You got to be able to see it, but it's being presented to you. So, come
First question at this time for the reasons I stated earlier. It is clear that they showed up in front of Gracie Mansion for their planned counter protest in response to the original protest that was planned by a Jake Lang affiliated group.
Or Bloomberg News. Both of these suspects have extensive Middle East travel histories, which may be inconsequential. They both are Middle Eastern. How are you squaring that with this attack? And then secondly, can you just talk about the nature? These are two young men, not even 21, and the nature of radicalization reaching young people.
So on the first part of your question, we're not able to answer that at this time, although, of course, as part of our investigation, we are aware of international travel. And I'm going to ask Rebecca Weiner, our Deputy Commissioner of Intel and Counterterrorism, to talk about radicalization of youth. Thank you.
Thank you. And this is very much in keeping with a trend that we are seeing among ISIS-inspired adherents, both in the country as well as throughout the West. Younger and younger individuals who are radicalizing and mobilizing to violence. And this is taking place against the backdrop of social media, the dynamics of online culture. It's not limited to ISIS, it's across the ideological spectrum. Younger people mobilizing to violence, something we're tracking very closely.
Have any of, Jerika Duncan from CBS News. Had any of these two individuals been arrested before? Do they have any type of record, and how much time are they facing? And if I could get a third question in, can you describe how destructive those devices could have been? How many people could have been impacted if they were successful?
So I believe that the two individuals in question do not have criminal histories or criminal backgrounds. And Rebecca, if you could explain more about that IED and TATP specifically and what it was capable of.
As the commissioner mentioned, TATP is highly dangerous and extremely volatile. And the NYPD and FBI bomb squads and bomb technicians did do controlled detonations of the two IEDs from the protest, which revealed a significant explosion. It's really important to note that had these IEDs functioned the way the perpetrators allegedly wanted them to, they could have caused death, destruction, extremely dangerous compound, an extremely dangerous place deployed.
For Commissioner Tish, and I think also for Commissioner Weiner, what was the assessment of this event in the days leading up to it in terms of your concerns, A, and B? What role did SRG play? Were they there in a primary capacity or in a backup capacity?
So we had been planning for this protest for several days. Whenever there is both a protest and a counter protest, that's something that the NYPD plans for very deliberately to avoid confrontations and for all of the other reasons you might expect. So this was no different, and there had been very thoughtful preparation for this event due to the combined protest, counter protest, and the location.
And I can just answer the question about SRG. SRG was in the area of the protest. They were there on in a backup capacity. We often have SRG around in an area if we think that it has a potential to get heated. So they were there. They were brought in after mayhem as soon as mayhem ensued.
How do you make that assessment? Well, just a quick follow-up. How do you make that assessment?
Our commanders on the ground will make the assessment about when to call in SRG. But certainly with this protest, we did have SRG on standby and prepared because we thought it had the ability to get interesting, given who was there.
Thank you. Marina, sorry.
You got it. Commissioner, Joe Marino, New York Post. Commissioner, are you looking at changing your posture towards policing protests, given the fact these two individuals were not known to you? And is it causing you to reassess like additional resources you may need from an intelligence or patrol standpoint?
So as you know, the NYPD remains on heightened alert. We really have been on heightened alert since the hostilities in Iran broke out about 1 week ago, which means extra counterterrorism deployments, heavy weapons teams, drones, aviation. This department, in particular, our intelligence and counterterrorism unit and teams have been out there in full force for the past week, as they are anytime something happens either in the city or around the world that we feel we need to deploy for. Look, this incident did occur at a protest, but it didn't have to have occurred at a protest. So this doesn't change our posture specifically on protests. The NYPD has been policing protests and ensuring New Yorkers' ability to exercise their First Amendment rights safely and lawfully for decades, but never more so, frankly, than over the past 2.5 years, where we have just seen a huge increase in the number of protests, and our officers, both our community affairs officers, our patrol officers, and our SRG officers are well trained and certainly well practiced at doing so.
Thanks, Brett. Hey, Commissioner, thank you. Given the threat picture that you've been outlining, how worrying is it that a couple of guys from Bucks County can just drive into Manhattan with potentially viable devices? Is it alarming, and is there anything you can do to stop it?
Thank you. So when we talk about heightened threat environment and when we talk about lone actor threat, this is another incredibly sobering reminder. We had one just a week ago in Austin, Texas. And that's the reason that we surge our personnel, as the commissioner just mentioned, we've been doing since the onset of the war overseas in Iran for the last 10 days to harden targets. Of course, some individuals will mobilize to violence without tripping the wires that we extensively set. And in that point, then it is the bravery of our officers who contend with a threat as it's unfolding on our streets, and in this case, incredibly bravely.
And I would just add, there's a few pieces to this, right? There is our intelligence and counterterrorism operation, and I have to say, there is no other city in the world that has an intelligence and counterterrorism capacity quite like the NYPD's. But then, as Deputy Commissioner said, we also have our well-trained officers on the ground doing deployments to catch anything.
Tony DeStefano, Newsday. I guess this is for Commissioner Weiner. The two devices, were they both assayed as being TATP?
I can
and
do
the assistant director talked of the third device being an improvised explosive. Was that also known quantity of TATP or something else?
So let's talk about the first two devices first. They were both brought on Saturday to Rodman's Neck, where our bomb technicians and FBI experts looked at them jointly. We assessed quite comprehensively one of the devices, and we determined that that device contained TATP. We didn't do the same type of thorough investigation of the second device, but instead decided to neutralize the two devices and take samples from both devices and send them over to an FBI lab where further testing, including for the existence of TATP in the second device, will be done.
Protect our kids and to take down every single predator we can find in this state. And we have broken the records for child. And it's good to be here in Orlando today. We're announcing a few things really focused on our priority over the last year to protect our kids and to take down every single predator we can find in this state. And we have broken the records for child predator takedowns by 3 or 4-fold over the last year, working with our great Florida Department of Law Enforcement, local law enforcement, our prosecutors, both in the statewide prosecution office of the AG's office, as well as our state attorneys. We've combined now, since I took the oath of office, to take down over 1,400 child predators. So I want to thank all of you guys for an outstanding job. Yeah, you can clap, it's okay. This morning, we announced 2 additional actions to combat these child predators. We arrested, he's still locked up as of this morning, from Leesburg here in Central Florida, Devin Hart, on over 10 counts of child sex abuse material that's been found on his devices. We're also announcing a sentence of 25 years that was just handed down by a judge on one of our cases in Pasco County for Michael Ambrosio, who had some of the most horrific images and videos on his devices that our investigators have ever seen. You know, a lot of people, even some judges in this state, unfortunately, keep asking, you know, why are you looking for lifetime sentences and decades behind bars for these people that aren't hurting anybody? You know, they're just, they've got child porn on their screens. Well, these are not victimless crimes. People are getting hurt here. The videos from Pasco County involved sexual abuse of babies, of toddlers, the most heinous of acts. And those victims that have suffered the most brutal of offenses, they suffer again and again every time these videos are watched, shared, sold. And let's be honest, these individuals, somebody that has an addiction to that type of disgusting content, we see a lot of correlation. It is only a matter of time before their addiction grows and they want something more, before they actually go and physically abuse a little kid. Last December, we announced a 135-year sentence in Volusia County. And the guy there, he was a teacher in a grade school. He took yearbook photos and photos of the students in class and used AI generation to create child porn based on that imagery. And everybody said, why? This guy's not actually hurting anybody. Why would you give him 135 years? It's not enough. We've got to get these dangerous, demented people away from our families, away from our kids for absolutely as long as possible. There's clearly something not right with these people. They can get that help in our Department of Corrections, where we hope to lock them up for as long as possible. And then that Volusia County case, that individual had sexually abused, I think, his dog, right? An animal. That's what these people are getting off on. That's who they are. We have to keep them away from our kids. This morning, the cases we're going to talk about in Leesburg, after finding files on devices, further investigation revealed that this individual was using the TikTok app to send and solicit CSAM material. So for parents at home, wake up. This is one of the most popular apps for young people, and it is riddled with predators and pornography. This is not helping you build a life that's going to enable flourishment, that's going to enable you to go off and build and raise a family and raise kids in God's image. This is dangerous. So parents, look at this. If you're not aware of what your kids are doing at home on their devices, you better figure it out right now. Also, in this case with Mr. Hart, he was communicating on Discord. This is not an app I was very familiar with before I took this job. Discord is a gaming app that's been around a long time, but what we see is these predators, they'll be conversing with kids on other sites like Snapchat, Instagram, TikTok. They often pretend to be kids themselves. They're very smart, very, very smart. They will lie in wait. They will be patient. They will use a dialect that sounds like kids. They'll tap into their insecurities and vulnerabilities. And in today's age, kids have so many. And then they'll often say, let's move the conversation to Discord.
Parents of children who play Roblox. If your child was sexually exploited.
Why? It's an easier avenue to communicate, and there's not as much tracking there. They think they're going to get away with it. Well, not here, not today, not under our watch, and not when facing the fight that's going to be coming at them from our law enforcement standing behind me, as well as our great prosecutors. So let today be another lesson. If you go after our kids here in Florida, we will come after you with everything we've got. And even if you're just hiding behind a screen, if you think, by not laying a finger on somebody, but just watching some child porn, you're going to get away with a slap on the wrist, that is not going to happen here, not in this state. We will put you away for absolutely as long as we can. Today, we hit a threshold, it's a record, but it's not one you're really proud of. I mean, we're proud we've locked up 1,400 plus child predators. It's a shame that they're out there, but they just keep coming. FDLE's got several more in the hopper that will be rolling out in the next week or two. We're going to be out there. We're going to be watching. We're going to keep fighting to make this the safest state to raise a family. So I'm honored to be joined this morning by FDLE Assistant Commissioner Mike Williams. FDLE's been pulling on a lot of these efforts, a lot of these 1,400 cases. It's their investigators that have had to comb through the material, put the evidence together so that we can go out and prosecute these cases to the fullest. That takes a toll on people. When you've got to be exposed to this, it'll take a toll on you. So these investigators, God bless them, the work that they're doing. For most of them, it's not the highest paycheck in the world. They're doing it because it's a passion project, because they care about protecting our kids. We're also joined by the two prosecutors that are working these cases from my office, Assistant Statewide Prosecutor Taylor Chatting and Assistant Statewide Prosecutor John Afina. So I'll let them say a little bit about their specific cases. So I'll say it again, stay away from our kids. If you come after them, you're going to have a problem with me. You're going to have a problem with these guys. You're going to have a big problem with the state of Florida. We're going to make it real easy to get you in our Department of Corrections and leave you there for a long time. And we're eligible to seek the death penalty. You better believe we're going to do it. So with that, I'll turn it over to Mike.
So thank you, Attorney General. Good morning. I'm Assistant Commissioner Mike Williams with FDLE. We're fortunate to live in the free state of Florida, where our governor and our Attorney General stand ready to fight to protect our children from exploitation and abuse, and ensure that Florida remains a safe place to live and raise a family. As the Attorney General mentioned, these very serious crimes committed by these predators will land them a very long prison sentence. At FDLE, our top priority is protecting our children. And Florida has a zero tolerance policy for criminals who exploit children. The internet, as you just saw some examples of, has become a place where predators hide behind a screen or behind a username on a social media platform to engage in depraved criminal acts against children, but you cannot hide from us. Last year, Governor Ron DeSantis signed legislation aimed to strengthen protections for children against sexual crimes, strengthen penalties for child abuse, and hold predators accountable for their heinous crimes. I commend the outstanding work of our FDLE agents and our partners for assuring that these dangerous predators are taken off our streets. And of course, we cannot do this work alone. And our success depends on the great partnerships and the collaboration you see up here with us today, and that's at work around the state every day. These cases are yet another great example of the countless hours of these types of investigations, countless hours worked to find these sick individuals who use the internet to exploit, to harm, and to manipulate children sexually. So at FDLE, it is our mission and our priority to make Florida a safe place for families. So please talk to your children about the dangers of being online. You can visit the FDLE website to review tips for keeping your children and your family safe online. So at FDLE, we will continue working with the Attorney General's staff, him and his team, to ensure that these offenders are found and are held fully accountable. Thank you.
Thank you, Mike. Taylor, you can come on up.
Good morning. I'd like to start off by first thanking Attorney General Uthmeyer as well as statewide Prosecutor McVeigh for their leadership and their continued commitment to ensuring that the children of Florida are protected. I also want to recognize the outstanding work of the Florida Department of Law Enforcement as well as the Leesburg Police Department. Their collaboration and investigative work in this case ensured that defendant Devin Hwart was identified and taken into custody.
You gotta have the best to be the best.
Are you researching dental implants?
There's a lot of dental offices that'll talk about doing their teeth.
As the Attorney General.
What are you talking about? Hey, Annie, you mean when it's not the president? My God, you people are dumber than S. What do you mean, Ann? What do you mean? They just busted a whole bunch of people and you're crying? You are the most dumbest broad I've ever met in my life. All of you people are stupid. If you can't see what they're doing and you keep bringing up Trump, you are so deranged. You do not care about the children. It proves it. What I'm doing is proving it to you. You don't care about the kids. It's your hate for Trump. You don't give a damn about the kids. They just rescued a bunch of kids. They're telling you exactly where it's coming from, what apps they're using, what they're doing, how to stop it. And you're over here complaining about Trump. Are you stupid? You are the waste of American life when you say stupid stuff like that. Honestly. And Ryan, if you're in the chat and you read anything like that, from now on, boot them. If they can't separate what's really going on in this world over your Trump weirdness, boot them. I don't want them in my chat. You need to learn, and you guys need to be watched because I think you like more than what you think. I think you're really obsessed with Epstein in a weird way because we're actually watching people doing something, and you want stuff that doesn't even do anything. I think you guys are weird. Weird. Like, have something wrong with you. You are not human. You like weird stuff, and we are stuck with you. Oh, Lord. Pray for these people.
Mentioned, this investigation began with a cyber tip from Discord and TikTok to the National Center of Missing and Exploited Children. Based on the evidence uncovered during this investigation, defendant's digital devices, our office filed an information charging this defendant with 11 counts of possession of child sexual abuse material. Many of these cases do begin on online platforms. Applications like Discord, Roblox, TikTok, Instagram, and many others are being used by child predators to contact and otherwise exploit these children. I encourage parents to stay involved in their children's online activities, know what applications they're using, know who they're communicating with,
The fuck?
open conversations in the home regarding their safety. Cases like this highlight the importance of strong relationships between law enforcement and prosecutors. Working together, we can ensure that these child predators are identified, arrested, and prosecuted to the fullest extent under the law. Thank you.
All right, come on up.
I also would like to thank
the Attorney General and statewide prosecutor McMahon for their leadership and their continued commitment to protecting children here in the state of Florida. Some of the worst I have seen in my entire career. That is what my FDLE agent told me when I first got this case. In her many years of experience with these cases, Agent Pruitt thought this was some of the most disturbing child pornography she had seen thus far. Simply reading the description of the images and the videos, I was instantly disturbed. It is something that still occupies my mind, and I think I'll remember for the rest of my life. This defendant possessed multiple videos and images of vile material depicting society's most vulnerable population, infant children. No one should have to see those images and videos, have them ingrained in their brain forever, but myself, my colleagues in law enforcement will never be able to unsee it. I'm incredibly grateful to my colleagues, our partners in law enforcement, and the Office of the Attorney General, and the Attorney General himself for helping secure a 25-year sentence in Florida State Prison for this offender. It is through our collective effort that we are able to ensure parents and children sleep just a little better at night knowing someone like this is behind bars. I'm incredibly proud to have been able to be just a small part of making sure justice was served in this case. Thank you again.
I promise you, you don't want to be going up against these strong women in the courtroom. So people that keep breaking the law in Florida, they must have a death wish, because we clearly we practice what we preach. We back our law enforcement. We support them, give them the tools to be successful, and we prosecute to the fullest. We do not believe in lenient plea deals, not here in this state. So I'll conclude by saying, as we announce this record-breaking day of over 1,400 child predators behind bars, I want to thank our governor for standing strong, for protecting Florida families, for heightening criminal penalties and giving us more tools to go after these demented perverts. I want to thank law enforcement for working day and night all over the state, making sure that no stone goes unturned when it comes to finding these villains and holding them accountable. So with that, we got time for a couple of questions, if there are any.
Would you tell the parents to delete TikTok from their kids' phone?
Look, parents have tough decisions to make. I do think parents need to reevaluate what is the appropriate age to give your kid a cell phone where they have the internet at their fingertips. When I was 15, 16 years old, that didn't exist yet. So today, you see kids now, and I know, my 5-year-old daughter is so smart and so cute and so persuasive. It's hard for me to say no to her. I can only imagine what it's like when suddenly she's 13 or 14 and all the other kids have them. So that is a tough decision to make. I'll tell you this, she's not getting a phone at 14 or 15 years old. No way. TikTok, very, very dangerous. We see a lot of predatorial activity there, a lot of pornography that's still on the site. We're working to hold them accountable. We have a recently passed piece of legislation, SB 3, that says under 14, it's illegal for these social media sites to let them on. 14 to 16, you can have access, but only after explicit parental approval. The 11th Circuit Court of Appeals recently upheld that law. It is the law of the land. And we're giving companies, really until another 30 days from now to get straight with regard to the under 14, 60 days to ensure parental consent is in place, and then we will begin filing lawsuits as fast as you can see.
So do you see it as a net positive or negative specifically?
I see most of social media as a net negative. That's TikTok and others. I see a lot of dangers. We've got the physical abuses we're talking about today. We've seen heightened evidence of self-harm, bulimia, in the worst of cases, suicides. I think it is a dangerous environment. It puts you in an echo chamber where everybody's focused on appearances, and there's filters and lenses to try to change the way you look. It's all horrific. I don't like it. The reality is it's here. Technology is not going anywhere. It's going to keep advancing. And that's why these guys have got to get even sharper every single day to stay ahead of these dangers.
You've also been going after Roblox specifically. Subpoenas, they claim they're trying to make things safer. Do you have any update from how that investigation?
They haven't done enough. mean, every week it seems like
Jesus,
we're
dude.
another child predator case that's coming from that app, just making our cases even stronger and stronger. So specifically, no. Hopefully, we'll have some updates soon. We've got this civil case now that's in litigation.
I need a new
working through some
fucking
subpoenas and requests
mod.
for information on the criminal side. But if it's clear that they knew how dangerous this application was and they hid it, tried to hide it under the rug, people need to
I
know.
don't even need your
That's-
help,
that's
bro.
not
Just
safe.
get out of my fucking face. Just get out of my fucking
I
way,
think if you go
bro.
look, this judge has been overturned more than any other in Florida state history. We're kind of used to it there. Goes up through the Northern District, and then he gets overturned on appeal a lot. I certainly think the governor, our state leaders, they have the authority to declare people terrorist organizations. The governors have strong police powers in the state to protect our citizens at all costs. Where you have ties to terrorist cells overseas, I think you should be getting school vouchers and other benefits and, charitable preferences here and there. So we'll keep litigating that. We're investigating some of these groups and their tentacles throughout the state, and you'll hear more from us throughout the year.
Any plans to meet with State Attorney Malik Laurel?
Not while I'm here. No, we have seen some cases recently where we've raised alarm and she has changed her position to heighten prosecutions. That's the goal. Public safety, putting bad guys away. That's not partisan. That's not political. That should be clear. Whether you are a Democrat, Republican, or whatever else, if people engage in attempted murder, if they kill people, if they molest people, they need to go away for a long time. And whatever party you are, if you're willing to do that and save our kids and families, I'll work with anybody.
They don't want you to know about it.
Hey, did you know you might get a big cash?
Hit the like, share, subscribe. Thank you. All right, we're about ready to start.
Hello, everyone. Thank you very much for being with us today. As you can see, we have a team of folks here from the federal government, the state government, and certainly the county and city government. So I'm going to introduce to you those that are going to speak and the other members that were part of this extensive investigation. Mark Brutnell from FDLE will speak. We were also joined by Central Florida HIDA, who's not here today. Statewide prosecutions is represented, certainly our Attorney General. We're so excited that he's with us today, General James Uthmeyer, and he will speak first. ATF, Bureau of ATF, federal government was here, but they're not here, was with us, but they're not at the operation today. The Auburndale Police Department, Chief Terry Story's with us. He's not going to speak. State Attorney's Office, my State Attorney, Brian Haas, who simply is the very best, is here, and he's going to speak. Medical Examiner's Office was involved in this investigation. DEA was involved in this investigation. They're not here today. The Winter Park Police Department, we're honored that Chief Tim Volkerson is with us today. Pasco Sheriff's Office is not here, but they worked with us. U.S. Marshals, Deputy Commander Diamond is here. He's not going to speak, but once again, we can't do this without our federal partners as well as our state partners. Florida Highway Patrol Sergeant Steve Gaskins, Sergeant Malloy, and Trooper Jeremy Fields are here today. They had a really important part in this operation, and certainly the Florida Department of Corrections, their intelligence team. So after introducing all of them, you can see that no one person, no one organization can do an investigation of this size. It's just impossible. But when we all work together, good things happen. This investigation began in April of 2025, and it culminated with 2 court-ordered wire intercepts at the end of the year. This is an organized gang, and this is gang members, and they're not all from the same gang. They're actually members from different gangs, but it's an organized criminal enterprise. That's why you'll see that we're charged RICO in a lot of these. We focused on trafficking in fentanyl and trafficking in methamphetamine. As a result of this investigation and thousands of hours, investigative hours, we made 51 arrests. We charged 10 with racketeering. There were 78 pounds of meth seized, 14.55 pounds of fentanyl, enough, as you can see, to kill 3,300,000 people. 13 firearms were seized, $20,000 in cash. We did a drug roundup that began on January the 30th, and part of these 51 arrests occurred with 32 warrants being attempted, and we served all but 5. There are 5 folks that are still wanted. You see them on the board here. Those 5 suspects, even though they're at large, they won't stay at large. We will find them. But it's important, and I highlight, and the reason for this entire operation, fentanyl traffickers are killing people across this county, this state, and this nation, just as sure as someone putting a gun to our victim's head and shooting them in the head. So that's why we're here. We're of one heart, and we're of one beat as we go after these fentanyl traffickers. Today, we're going to, as they say in the gang world, lace you up. We're going to talk about the gangbangers who are selling this poison and who won't sell this poison any longer. Let me explain that Operation Flatline was the second T3 or wire intercept, but I'm going to speak briefly about it first so that you will understand how urgent what we do is. And then I'm going to turn it over to the Attorney General and the other speakers. But it's important to understand that these are our victims. Terry Morris, who's 50 years of age, is dead. He got his drugs from a guy who goes by the name of Knowledge. Angela Valente, who's 42, is in a nursing home, unconscious, since she overdosed in mid-December, and there's no indication that she's ever going to recover. Dante Trenton Neoff is 21. He's dead. He's from Haines City. He died in his bedroom. The drug was supplied by Knowledge. Madeline Smith, 21, from Winter Haven, is dead. She died at the hospital from a drug overdose from drugs she got from Knowledge. I was actually at the hospital and saw them trying to save Madeline's life. However, that didn't happen. Folks, I want you to look at this. This is someone's grandchildren. This is someone's children. This is someone's brother and sister. These are real people that these folks are killing with their trafficking in fentanyl. And that's why we're here. So who is Knowledge? Knowledge is William Newton Jr. He's 39. He's from Winter Haven. He's currently on probation for sale of cocaine. Did you hear what I said? He's already on probation for sale of cocaine while he's out dealing in fentanyl. We also have him under investigation, as you may understand, for murder. He has new charges of sale of fentanyl that we file, trafficking in cocaine, trafficking in fentanyl, violation of probation. But I want to talk to you a minute about the quickest T3 or wire intercept the sheriff's office has ever done. It may be one of the quickest ones ever done across the state or the United States. And I want to brag on Brian Haas and his team. So we're in the middle of what we call Operation Bloodline, doing this investigation. And all of a sudden, mid-November, 1st of December, people are falling over dead. These folks, they are in serious shape. Others that we've not even listed here went to the hospital and recovered. But all of a sudden, we have this real upsurge of fentanyl overdoses. We do something that I hope is not unique. Not only do we send our homicide team out to do the death investigations, but we send a narcotics team out to work with them. So we immediately, through our homicide detectives and our narcotics detectives, determine that William Newton is supplying the fentanyl. So we tried to go undercover and arrest him. He's too smart for that. You see, he's been to Florida State Prison for trafficking in cocaine on a minimum mandatory before. He has 8 previous felony charges. 8 previous arrests, 7 felonies and 1 misdemeanor. So we had to do something proactively and quickly to figure out how to stop him from dealing this fentanyl, because he was killing people. We were watching them die before our very eyes. And that's when Nicole Orr, who's one of the directors for State Attorney Haas, received permission and immediately did a T3 order. We literally went up on this order on a Thursday. It was written just as quickly as we could get the data together. By Sunday, we went down on this order and we caught him that quick. Brian Haas and his state attorneys, our detectives, saved untold lives because we did a proactive T3 in order to stop this guy from spreading all of this horribleness throughout this county. Make no mistake about it. Lives have been saved because of the hard work of our undercover detectives, who are the very best. Now, it's important to understand that that is only part of the investigation. The other part of the investigation, I will end with my flashcards. Y'all would be very upset if I didn't have flashcards, okay? After we hear from our speakers. First, I want to introduce James Uthmeyer. He is the Attorney General for the state of Florida. He simply is the very best. He works every day with his team in order to save lives, prosecute bad guys, and make Florida, the free state of Florida, the best place to live. We turn to him and to our state attorney, Brian Haas, who I will introduce second, immediately. And what we receive is yes, yes, and yes, let's prosecute them, let's hold them accountable. As you'll hear later on, if these people aren't locked up, they're selling drugs and killing people. This attorney general and his team make sure that we lock them up for just as long as we can. So it's an honor, General, that you join us today. So let me turn the podium over to you.
Glad to be here. Thank you, Sheriff. It's great to be back in Polk County. I was recently in the Atlanta airport on a flight connecting back to Tallahassee, and a woman came up, asked me where I was from, didn't know who I was. I told her Florida, and she said, it's really remarkable what's going on in Florida. The leaders down there, they stand by law enforcement, and what you guys are doing to drive down crime rates is incredible. And I said, yeah, I hear they've got a good attorney general, just kind of trying to see what her response would be. She's like, yeah, I don't know anything about that guy, but this sheriff you guys have down there, Grady Judd, fantastic. She says, I don't know why anybody would be dumb enough, to commit crimes in Polk County. I said, well, if they had any wits about them, I don't think they'd be committing crimes at all. But here in Polk County, we send a message to the country. When you support law enforcement and your investigators, when you have their backs, when you give them the tools to be successful and do their jobs, we have results like today. I mean, this is one of the biggest gang takedowns over the last year. And you can see from what was seized here, this isn't child's play. This is not small stuff. You've got enough meth and fentanyl to kill millions of people. You've got over a dozen firearms, thousands of dollars of cash. These guys were not doing just street level drug dealing. This was advanced trafficking, conspiracy, RICO. We're going to go after these guys with everything we've got. We're going to throw the book at them because these guys on these charts, these are career criminals. The sheriff said it right. If they're back on the streets, they're doing drugs and people are losing their lives. So God bless these investigators and law enforcement that took these guys down. They put their lives on the line every single day to keep our streets safe and to get all this stuff out of our communities. So we're going to keep sending a message in our office. I think the state attorney's got similar results. We've had record arrest convictions and sentences over the last year, and that correlates perfectly with a decreasing crime rate. It's not complicated. When you lock people up that are dangerous for a long time, crime rates go down. We send a message, stay out of the state of Florida. So it's good to be here today. You got a wonderful state attorney. I think we got over 51 arrests here. We'll be working with him to split these things up and prosecute to the fullest. So thank you.
Thank you, General. Our state attorney, Brian Haas, is remarkable. We talk almost every day of the week about strategies. Who are we going to put in jail? How long can we keep them in jail? Can you help on the T3? And his answer is always yes, yes, yes. I hear some sheriffs from around the state, around the country saying, hey, it's a frustrating thing to work with our state attorney's office or our prosecutor's office. That doesn't happen here. It's nice to have a state attorney's office and Brian Haas as our state attorney and his team that instead of looking for ways not to prosecute cases, look for ways to prosecute cases. And that's unique. So if you want to see a real prosecutor, you look at General Uthmeyer and you look at Brian Haas, our state attorney, the state attorney, because they understand that we are concerned about the safety and security of the overall majority of the people in this state. And we're not worried about the criminals except when they're not locked up. And these guys do the very best. Mr. Haas?
Thank you, Sheriff. I think it's important to start with acknowledgement and thanks to all law enforcement who was involved with this. These are not easy operations. They're high risk, very stressful, and what an amazing job everyone involved with this has done. It starts at the top with Sheriff Judd and the leadership that he gives, and everyone bringing everyone together. And you read these reports, and you can just picture how terrifying some of these moments can be, because these are bad people that we're pursuing. This is not just some kind of academic exercise. This is for real. And I think about the number, the quantity of drugs that were found here and the circumstances that led to it. We all know people who have been addicted or having a difficult time with substance abuse. And guys like Newton, they prey on those people. They know exactly what they're doing. They take advantage of the fact that people are having a hard time, and they exploit it for their own personal financial gain. And you just look at what a pathetic situation we had here with this guy, kids in his car, and just that he would put anyone in that type of situation is just so troubling. So if you read through the reports, he was at this motel, that hotel, this place, that place. And I think our goal here is to give him a permanent address. That's going to be at the Florida State Prison. We have great laws in Florida. We have great judges here in the 10th Circuit. But if one of them decides that they're going to go light on this particular individual, we have mandatory minimums that are going to say otherwise. And it will ensure that this fellow is going to end up in prison for a long time. So I'll conclude with this. We've been here before. We're here today. We'll be here again. And right now, somewhere in Polk County or across the state of Florida, there's another Newton who's out there deciding to sell drugs, whatever it might be. My advice is find something else to do, because before you know it, you're going to be on one of these boards and you'll be headed to prison as well. Thank you.
All right, you got to stop buying generic Viagra. If y'all over 40, you can get 9 pills of 100 milligram generic Viagra for just $7.
The Florida Department of Law Enforcement and the Sheriff's Office here work hand in glove on operations almost nonstop. I brag on them. They work closely with all law enforcement agencies, but I think we occupy a lot of their time. Our special agent in charge, Mark Britnell, is fantastic, and he's going to speak to you about the extra efforts that they bring to the table, not only through their remarkable investigators, detectives, special agents, but with other resources. Mr. Britnell?
Yes, sir. Thank you, Sheriff. AGF Meyer, Mr. Haas, thank you, guys. On behalf of Commissioner Mark Glass, I'm Mark Britnell, Special Agent in Charge for STV Tampa Bay. I'm proud to stand here today to announce the impressive results of this operation due to the hard work of investigators and analysts. These partnerships continue to lower the risk of fentanyl and gang violence endangering our communities. None of this would have been possible without the support of Governor DeSantis, General Uthmeyer, and our legislatures continuing funding of the State Assistance for Fentanyl Eradication funding, also known as SAFE. Once again, the SAFE program has delivered. We stood here for years with the sheriff and other agencies across the state touting the SAFE program. It works. As you see the numbers of arrests going up, deaths going down, seizures going up. SAFE is here and it is working. I'd also like to take a brief moment to highlight some of the amazing investigative techniques and tactics that were utilized by the agencies we see here today to completely dismantle this organization. Early on in the investigation, investigators conducted undercover purchases of methamphetamine. These purchases ranged from 4 ounces to 14 pounds. Think about that, 14 pounds of methamphetamine. Also, fentanyl undercover purchases were made. Again, 2 grams to 2 pounds of fentanyl. As the investigation proceeded, the team developed enough probable cause, as the sheriff mentioned, to initiate a Title III wiretap investigation with the goal of targeting the hierarchy of the organization and completely crushing them as an organization. In the middle of that Title III, as the sheriff spoke about, they gleaned some information about a possible overdose. Agents immediately acted, identified the target, working side by side with the state attorney's office. An emergency order was authorized and initiated. Because of the vigilance and attention to detail, as the sheriff spoke about, William Newton was apprehended with over 6 pounds of fentanyl and 1.5 pounds of cocaine. I can't underscore enough of the efficiency and the urgency by this team displayed during that time. There is no doubt they saved lives. So on January 30th, and I'm sure the sheriff will talk about the roundup day to take down this organization. And as the sheriff spoke earlier, 78 pounds of methamphetamine, 14.5 pounds of fentanyl, 20,000 in cash, 13 firearms. When there's drugs, there's always firearms, and 51 total arrests. As the sheriff spoke earlier as well, there's 5 members still currently at large. I have no doubt that there'll be a guest of Sheriff Judd's jail very soon. I just want to take the time real quick to say thank you to everyone that worked on this case, the team, all the analysts, agents, investigators, true team effort. This is a great, great case. Thank you for your time. Thank you, Sheriff.
Thank you, sir. Before I start, you know, I continue to see in articles across the state and nation about drugs are low level and nonviolent. I want you to look at this. Look at this gun. Look at these guns. Look at this fentanyl that enough to overdose and kill 3.3 million people. And the next time you hear someone suggest that drugs are low level and nonviolent, you too can clearly understand that they're a nut, that they need mental health counseling. Because our agents and deputies and detectives are facing this kind of firepower to bring these kind of people into custody. They're very, very, very dangerous people. And I'm about to go over the cards with you. And I think you'll understand when you see the cards why these people are very dangerous. Because they have guns and they don't mind using them. And I think it'll be interesting. I'm going to just flip through them very quickly. I'm not going to try to make the lineage and tie all of that together. We can give you that through the PIOs. But I'm just going to give you a snapshot. This is Eric McCaskill from Winter Park. He's 36. He was released from the Florida State Prison in 2020 for trafficking in meth. He was sentenced on a 3-year minimum mandatory. He drove to Polk County with 14 pounds of meth. When he was arrested, he said, well, I knew not to mess around in Polk County, but he did, and he's caught. He is a gang member. He's charged with RICO, with trafficking, and he's facing a 15-year mid-man. As State Attorney Haas said, what's important about these minimum mandatories? Because judges can't listen to family members and sob stories and alligator tears and to go, well, heck, he's such a nice young man, and end up giving him 2 years. When what he is, he's a drug dealing person who's responsible for the deaths of folks. But he's got a criminal history. He's got 30 other felonies, 26 misdemeanors. He's been to Florida State Prison 2 times, once for trafficking and once for fleeing arrest. And then there's Spencer Leonard, 37, in Bartow. He was released from Florida State Prison in 2020 for trafficking in heroin on a 5-year minimum mandatory. Oh, he fled from us when we went to arrest him. Now he's charged with RICO and trafficking in fentanyl, over 28. That's a 25-year minimum mandatory. He also has a criminal history of 12 felony arrests and 12 misdemeanors. He has been to state prison on 2 other occasions. Now, you hear and you're going to hear this drumbeat. They've been to prison. They've been to prison. When they're not locked up, they're out peddling drugs and peddling violence. Stephen Jackson's 32. He's from Winter Haven. He's a gang member. He stole a kilo of fentanyl from an associate. That usually doesn't bode well for your life expectancy. We probably saved his life when we arrested him from being shot by another gangbanger. He traveled to California as a connection from the California to Polk County to bring the drugs. He has a criminal history of 23 felonies, 14 misdemeanors. He too has been to Florida State Prison on 2 different occasions.
Zegrid releases immediately and blocks acid that causes heartburn for 24 hours. Feel the difference.
¿Quiere arreglar sus papeles, pero ha escuchado que no califica para nada? Soy la abogada Ángeles Sinsky.
This is Umbuju Grant. He's 34. He's from Lakeland. He is second in command of this gang whose name we're not going to give. We have him charged currently with conspiracy to traffic in meth. He's had 17 felony arrests. robbery with a firearm on 2 different occasions, and 7 misdemeanors. If you don't think this guy won't point a gun in your face before quick, just encounter him on a dark alley one night. Michael Wells is 34. He's a gang member. He's a meth supplier. We have him charged with RICO, trafficking meth. It's a 15-year minimum mandatory. On one occasion, when we were monitoring his phone calls, he was talking to one of his associates, and he said, "Man, my phone connection's bad. I guess maybe they're tapping my phone." He might have been a prophet also, because he was right. We were listening to his phone call. He has a criminal history. He's known to be violent. He has 11 felonies, 4 misdemeanors, and he did an armed burglary with a firearm. This is Tonyo Cortez Evans. He's 40, he's from Eagle Lake. He's a gang member. He fled from the deputies when we tried to take him down, tried to run over a deputy, rammed another deputy. There were multiple shots fired on this particular occasion. He has a 15-year mid-man. He's also charged with attempted murder on law enforcement officers. He is a bad guy. He's got a criminal history. He doesn't want to go to jail. He's had previous drug arrests, resisting arrests, VOPs, fleeing. He has 35 felonies and 39 misdemeanor arrests. He's active committing crime. This is Joshua Pucklewarts. Yeah, common spelling. He's 33 from Tampa. He is a rapper. He's known as Tommy Boy Wayne. Well, if my last name was Pucklewarts, I'd probably go by Tommy Boy Wayne too. But he's really a popular rapper in Central Florida. He's also a meth supplier. He fled from the highway patrol. That didn't get him very far because they caught him. They crashed him into a bridge, or he crashed into a bridge. He had 11.8 pounds of meth. He's facing a 15-year mid-man, so he can rep his way all the way to state prison. This is Jamarian Young. He's 36. He's known as Shiesty. He's the highest ranking member of the gang in Florida. They call him the landlord. He's charged with RICO, trafficking in fentanyl, trafficking in meth. They're 25-year mid-mans. But he did tell the detectives when we arrested him, "Hey, you all did a really good job of catching me." He's already served 15 years in the Florida State Prison sentence for armed robbery with a firearm. And he's on his way back. There's Jarrell Carr. Jarrell Carr's 35. He's from Mulberry. And Bruce Young. Bruce is 37 from Lakeland. Pay attention to this. He's released from the Florida State Prison on November the 29th of last year. Got that? On the very same day, he started negotiating dope deals. The day he's out. We have him for conspiracy to traffic, racketeering, 15-year mid-man. Newsflash, he's a gang member. He has a criminal history with 11 felonies, kidnapping for ransom, traffic, 21 misdemeanors. And then there's Jarrell Carr. He's known as Solid. He's a gang member. He was released from Florida State Prison in June. He was serving 7 years for a trafficking in meth. I forgot to say he was serving 7 years for trafficking in meth. He fled from the highway patrol, didn't do any good. They caught him because the highway patrol catches people they pursue. He was charged with racketeering, trafficking in fentanyl, trafficking in meth. He's got a 25-year mid-man. Look, folks, I want to end with this. These folks just got out of serving 7 years in prison for trafficking in drugs, and they're back trafficking in drugs. This is your poster child or poster children. If you don't lock these people up, they are going to commit crimes. They're prolific criminals. That is their career. That is their business. They're gang members and they work together. They say one heart, one beat. But what you see here today is one heart, one beat to arrest all of them that are doing their best to kill folks like these people here. So with that, you have all the information that we have. God bless you. Have a good weekend. I am joined by our colleagues who are going to gather around and be a part of our press release this morning. Let me introduce you to Chief David Brennan from the Winter Haven Police Department, Jim Alinsky from the Haines City Police Department, Chief Velasquez from the Lake Wells Police Department, Chief Andy Ray from the Auburndale Police Department. We have Dr. Mary Ann Thomas once again from One More Child. We have Misty LaPerriere from Sail of Freedom. We also were joined by DCF, who worked with us on this operation, and Heartland for Children. And it all started with Operation March Sadness 2, 2022, on the 8th of March. Now, we don't think basketball should be able to dominate March by itself, so we have our own bracket, but instead of brackets of winners, we have brackets of losers. And we're going to go over and tell you some of the absolute, not only sadness, but craziness that we saw during this last operation. But I am eternally grateful for our police chiefs, because we wouldn't be able to do this unless we all work together. And my fantastic detectives that work so very hard. And certainly our counselors, because they join us in every operation. They work a lot of hours so that they can be there the instant that we identify and help us identify the victims of these human operations. It's unbelievable, the victims we get with our human trafficking operations. And we identified one this time that I'll talk about without her name. Many times it takes follow-up investigation by this wonderful team of counselors in order to get there. But let's start with Mr. Finley. Mr. Finley is not involved in this from a human trafficking / prostitution operation, but we hit a grand slam in that we also found child sex predators. And he's the first child sex predator that we identified. He's 39 years of age. He's a handyman. He's from Mulberry. And he traveled to our undercover location thinking he was going to engage a very young child for sex. Newsflash, it wasn't a very young child. It was a group of detectives. He's been charged as a result for traveling, for resisting arrest. That's right, he ran from us. He didn't want to go to jail. He had meth. He was also charged with attempted lewd battery and transmission of some very ugly stuff that he thought was going to a 13-year-old child. So it would have been a grand slam week for all of our resources and efforts if we'd have just gotten Timothy Finley, who thought he was traveling to meet a child. It's pretty nervy if you think about it. He was showing up at the child's residence when he thought mom and dad weren't there. But he wasn't alone. Then there's Shannon Johnson. He's 41. He's from Orlando. You know, it's interesting. The Orlando stations aren't here today. They should be, because they got a lot of these problems over in Orlando, and the community over there needs to be made aware of it. He thought he was communicating with a 13-year-old child. He wanted to be her daddy. He wanted to have different kinds of sex with what he thought was a 13-year-old child. He works at a warehouse. He was charged with traveling, attempted lewd battery, transmission of photos of himself, nude photos, you know what I mean? And he didn't have any children himself, but he wanted to play this game of daddy. That's right. He has a criminal history. And when we arrested him, he said, "You got me. You're right. We got him." So if we'd arrested 2 child predators, that would have been a grand slam week. But we got another one. This guy's from Gainesville. He's employed in construction. He did not travel, but he communicated with what he thought was a 14-year-old child online and said, "Don't tell the cops." And then he sent videos and stills of himself doing things an adult should never do in the presence of a child, or publicly, or recorded for public consumption. Nasty stuff. Rose here, Jody Rose, is a nasty, nasty guy. He's 36 years old. So we traveled to Gainesville to get him, or we had the Alachua Sheriff's Office travel for us to get him. When we arrested him, he said, "It's just a misunderstanding." Maybe a misunderstanding on his part. It's not a misunderstanding on our part. He was sending nasty videos and photographs to children. No criminal history up until now, but now he's got 11 felony charges. So he made up for lost time with his arrest. That would have been a grand slam if we'd only gotten 3. Then there's Xavier Jackson. He's 27. He thought he was chatting with a 14-year-old, and he sent photos of himself doing things that's totally inappropriate. He did not travel. So once again, the Orange County Sheriff's Office assisted us, and because he's from Orlando, and traveled to arrest him, where he was charged with 3 counts of harmful material and 1 count of unlawful communication. Oh, did I mention that he just happens to be a lifeguard at the Polynesian Resort for Disney? You think there's a few children around there? That's right. I didn't stutter. He was a lifeguard at the Polynesian Resort for Disney and was bragging about that. So we were able to arrest 4 predators in this operation. This is huge. 4 arrests of this magnitude in a week is simply remarkable. But let's move on. These guys weren't predators, but they all have something in common with the last arrest. They work for Disney. So you have Wilkeson Fidel. He's 24. He lives in Orlando. He thought he was coming for sex. He's been a Disney employee for 4 years, and he works at the Cosmic Restaurant in Tomorrowland. Except now he is in the county jail if he hasn't made bond yet. And then there's Shahab Malav. He's 27. He's a software developer for Disney. He's worried because he's here on a work visa from India. He thought he was coming to have sex with two ladies. Surprise, once again, undercover detectives. Then there's Ralph Leese. He's 45. He lives in Winter Garden. He's an IT employee for Disney. He's been there about 4 years, and he's married. So I'm sure Disney's not pleased. I bet his wife's not pleased, but we're pleased that we arrested him. I'm going to tell you about a trafficker. It's not often we arrest traffickers at the undercover site, but we did. And normally when we arrest traffickers at the undercover site, it's a male. Let me introduce you to Tiffany Nash. She was the trafficker of a young lady. Tiffany's 32 years of age. Why she's not been busy committing crime, because she has 61 previous criminal charges, 41 of them felonies and 20 as misdemeanors. She's the manager of the Kentucky Fried Chicken in Orlando. Now, I just don't believe I'd want any finger-licking good chicken that she touched. Just saying. What she does is she would set up the deal. And then she would force this young lady, this victim, to come along. This deal was for $300. If this lady were lucky, she would get $20. So the lady, the victim, Ubered over, followed by Tiffany to make sure that the deal went right, and Tiffany got her money. As soon as we took the victim down, ostensibly for an arrest, this wonderful team determined she's a victim. So she's not criminally charged, and she's not up here on this board because she's immediately turned over and treated as a victim, not a criminal suspect in an event. So Tiffany's been charged with human trafficking, deriving proceeds, possession of cocaine, possession of meth, possession of paraphernalia. And guess what? She's not managing the Kentucky Fried Chicken place today. She's in our county jail. And we don't serve finger-licking good chicken there. The victim has been turned over for services. Then we have Daniel Peters, 66 years old. He thought he was coming for a girlfriend experience, kind of a date. He went on an escort site. Oh, can I show you the other picture of Daniel Peters? This is the Honorable Daniel Peters, who is a retired judge from Cook County, Illinois, or the Dishonorable Judge Peters from Cook County, Illinois. And when we were doing our follow-up investigation to validate all of this, what did we find out? He also retired from the Cook County Sheriff's Office, according to him. That's right. He said he was a special assistant in legal affairs, and he worked, are you ready for this? In the Office of Professional Regulations, where he was a director. You kidding me, right? No, I'm not kidding you. As my old daddy would have said, that's a known fact. He said, quote, I've been on the other side of this. Well, I'd like to ask him today, so which side do you like best? Now that you have been the prosecutor, you've been the judge, you've been at the state attorney's office, and now you're the defendant. So we locked him up in the county jail. He says he lives in Palos Hills, Illinois. He requested an attorney. Well, Judge, you need an attorney. You got problems. He went to the jail in Polk County. Then there's Richard Jackson. He thought he was coming for sex. This guy wouldn't be particularly interesting out of the group. He lives in Orlando, but he worked at a family amusement park called the Fun Spot around children, around a lot of people. So we thought it's worthy for people to know, if you go to the Fun Spot, if they still employ him, you need to know that he will do illegal things for money. And then there's Nelson Cruz. You know, we got this thing going with with food restaurants. He is a manager of a restaurant as well, Cracker Barrel in Altamont Springs. He's married. He's worried as well because he's here on a work visa from Honduras. He thought he was coming to have sex. Now, he lives in our county, but obviously he hasn't got the message yet. You know why he said he did this? Are you ready for this? He had an argument with his wife. So he decided that I'll just go have an event with a prostitute. I bet his wife's not happy. I'm just guessing. He's arrested. And we don't serve Cracker Barrel at the jail, so he won't have to worry about seeing delicious food, only nutritious food. And then there's James Compton. He's 42. He's a graphic designer. He wanted to have all kinds of sex, and he wouldn't be particularly interesting, except for the fact his 17-year-old son was refereeing a youth soccer game across the street. Hey, I guess he just got tired, right? Let's see. My son's refereeing this youth soccer tournament. I don't have anything to do. I think I'll go across the street and have sex with a prostitute. There's your all-American dad. So he has a criminal history back in 1998 for lewd battery. So the night's wrapping down. We have arrested this child predator who resists us and runs. So we have to tase him. And as is our protocol, when you tase someone, you have an ambulance run an EKG strip to make sure everything's all right. So we have to call an ambulance to the scene, and a fire truck shows up. We've got another undercover deal cooking. So our undercover people try to blow off the deal. Hey, we'll do it tomorrow. Here's the deal. There was a guy by the name of Seth Phillips and Christina Garrett coming from Bradenton. Christina is Seth's girlfriend. Follow this now. Coming from Bradenton, where they're to be paid $1,000 to have sex with two undercover people. They think this is going to be $1,000 in their pocket. They're going to have sex. Going to be a great evening. However, Seth left his wife at home while he shows up with his girlfriend. So he gets in the area. We have the guy resist. Now we got to have the fire trucks there and the ambulance and the EKG strip. So we text, our undercovers text and say, hey, the cops are here. Told them the truth. Ambulance is here, fire trucks here. We'll do it tomorrow night. Seth, who's a former Marine and a Lyft driver, is not happy. So here's what he says. I'm mad. I've come all the way over here for $1,000, and now you're blowing me off. You are going to pay me $100 for the ball of meth. you are going to pay me $500 for the cancellation. If not, you better have a lot of friends with guns and a chopper. You'll sleep well if you pay knowing that the boogeyman won't come. And then he continued to threaten. And guess what? He showed up. That's right. The ambulance had cleared out. Fire trucks had cleared out. We'd shut the operation down for the night. The detectives were in the house when they noticed on the camera, a car pulls up. This guy gets out of the car along with Christina. He does not walk to the house. He sprints to the house, gun in hand. You see where this is going. So our detectives, who are simply the very best, they say to themselves, self, we think we ought to have a gun since this guy has just arrived gun in hand. We open the door with 4 of our guys with guns, and he's got a gun above his head. He's coming down with his gun. Christina saves his life by jumping in front of him. He puts the gun in his waistband, so we don't know if he's bringing it down to point it at us or he's counting 4 guns and he brings it down to put. It is that close to a shooting. Microseconds. We take him into custody. He's charged with 4 counts of aggravated assault with a firearm, attempted robbery, possession of meth, extortion by threat. Christine is charged with prostitution and possession of heroin. And he made the statement during the interview. He became totally cooperative at this point and said, you would have been right to shoot me. Well, I appreciate his understanding of the gravity of the situation. But because our detectives did exactly what was right, and because Christina got in the way, and she gets credit as well for him being alive today, because this was a very tough situation. I'm going to turn the podium over real quickly to first Chief Andy Ray, a dear friend of mine and a professional, consummate professional law enforcement executive, as are my other friends and colleagues here today, for a few comments. Chief.
Thanks, Chair. Good morning. Just like to point out the hard work of the detectives from the Sheriff's Office and from our agencies that assisted them as well. I know how much work goes into this. It's a ton of work. And so great job for everybody that was here and working on the case. Also like to point out, like the sheriff did, that we don't just do it as a law enforcement agency. We also have other agencies that are in the business of helping children and victims in cases like this. So Sale of Freedom, One More Child, the Department of Children and Families, Heartland for Children. Everybody is involved in this because it's important and because the victims of human trafficking and the sex business deserve our help and need our help. So we're glad to be a part of it. We're glad to look out for the interests of kids and of the victims in these cases. And we're happy to be a part of taking people off the street that are dangerous to your kids in the community. So thanks for the opportunity, Sheriff, to work with you. And it's always a pleasure.
Good morning. Same as Chief Ray, we do appreciate the Sheriff always asking us to come over and participate in these events. It's not hard for us to find volunteers, even though it's a lot of hard work and hours, but we always have plenty of detectives, just like the detectives from all the other agencies. They're great people. They come out here to work hard. And as you can see, this is not one city that is an issue at, it's across the county and people coming into our county. So we have to keep this up and make sure we protect these victims. Thank you.
Good morning, everybody. So as the sheriff said, I believe we got 4 actual predators this time, and no matter how long these these events take place. I don't know how long it's going to take before people understand that Polk County is not going to tolerate it. So just one predator would have been worth the event. So I just want to thank the sheriff. He's always asking for additional help, and I want to thank him. Thank you for having us there, and we will continue to do these events. I'm confident of that. So thank you.
Hi, my name is Mary Ann Thomas, and I am the Senior Director of Anti-Trafficking for One More Child. We are invited back year after year by Sheriff Judd, and I am honored and grateful that he invites us in to do work right alongside victims the minute they are recovered. Like he said, we help in identifying victims when they are recovered, and the minute that they are, we are able to sit down with them. We are able to explain services that are out there for them, explain what the next steps are for them, and walk them away from that situation. This time we were able to get a trafficker, and that really makes my heart so happy. And on that note, I want to speak to you on that level as someone who has been that person. Sheriff Judd alluded to a lot of these girls are also victims and they just didn't identify. So I want to speak to my sisters and brothers out there. Are you tired yet? I know you're listening. Please come in. Please understand these are people who care. This is law enforcement who is on your side. Come in and talk to them. They want to help. Thank you so much for having us every year. I really appreciate it.
Good morning. My name is Misty LaPerriere, and I am the law enforcement liaison for Selah Freedom. First and foremost, I want to give a big thank you to Sheriff Judd and all of the agencies that collaborated on such a big operation and all of your tireless hours and efforts put in to remove predators from our streets and help protect our kids. I think this is very unique in the sense that Sheriff Judd does invite in victim advocates, as Mary Ann had shared, to be able to meet with the victims right there on scene and offer services. As we know, sometimes it takes 8 to 10 points of contact before somebody is ready to get help and get out of the life. So we will continue to make contact, even with those who maybe did not admit a history of human trafficking, to find out what services are needed if they are wanting services. So again, I just want to say thank you for inviting us out. And again, for all the time and effort that you guys put into these operations. So thank you.
I also want to thank Wesley and Ashley Barnett, who are philanthropists in the community. They have a care and a concern for these victims of human trafficking. They agreed to accompany me on Friday night, and they saw firsthand the evil that is occurring in society. And they have this deep care and concern for our community and for the victims in our community. And I appreciate you both being there so very, very much. Are there any questions?
Sheriff, without giving away too many details on how the sting operations work, just to clarify, do your detectives like infiltrate websites and set up these dates, or?
All of the above. Social media sites, dating sites, escort sites. We go into all the various sites, and we're joined by my colleagues, by the detectives from the police department. So we can cover dozens of locations in order to effectively communicate with not only the predators, that was an additional bonus this time, not only the Johns, but also the victims and the potential victims. We know some of these ladies we arrested for prostitution denied being victims. However, there will be follow-up by this wonderful team of folks, because we know some of them are victims that would not admit to being a victim. So it was a wonderful day when we found one that admitted to being a victim, because that's not normal. Normally they have to work with these folks for weeks and months before they'll agree for services, but this one agreed to services immediately. So we go looking where they are, where they're out scouring the web pages themselves for customers or victims. And these jobs, there's a significant fine for them to pay, because you think about it, without them, these victims wouldn't be there.
Judd, is there any difference in charges when people are agreeing to meet with undercover investigators that are posing as children versus actual children?
Well, certainly the charges would be enhanced if they were to have met with a child. But if it weren't for our detectives and there was a child being groomed, then they would have actually met and sexually abused a child. And sometimes we know those children end up dead after that encounter because the folks don't want to get caught. So we have the traveling charges, we have the using the computer charges, the harmful material charges, the attempted lewd battery charge if they travel. But certainly if it were to be a real child, then we would have a huge victim here among us. So we're online to stop them from getting to children. And there were 4 people who were trying, 2 of them were trying to groom the child. They weren't traveling at the time. The other 2 actually traveled. So we protected some little girl someplace that was groomed or potentially groomed by these evil, deviant criminals, thugs. That's all they are. They're dangerous people.
Sheriff, sounds like this victim that you guys did get is kind of lucky that she got busted in this situation, right? Like what she just said, it's hard to find these victims. For her to get found by you guys during this bust, how lucky is she?
Well, she's really lucky, and we're lucky that she admitted right up front. Think about it. This this trafficker followed her there. She was charging $300. If she was lucky, she gets 20. So the person gets 20, the trafficker gets 280. The trafficker also gives her drugs and threatens her with a firearm, had threatened to shoot her and threatened her with violence on numerous occasions if she didn't do this. So she's not only being psychologically threatened, she is being threatened with significant injury or death, as well as playing with her mind with drugs. And what amazes me is we could do another operation starting next week and fill this board up again. And be sure.
Okay, like he just said, to the people that are getting this misconstrued, first off, how most of these crimes, if you were to watch the first video I showed, which was from today, it was the Attorney General of Florida talking about all the people that they had arrested from online through TikTok, Discord, I can't remember what other one it was. But yes, they use the internet now. How are you going to catch people without throwing the bait out? There's no way. You're not going to catch these people. So when you're talking about, escort is different than trafficking or even prostitution, because even in prostitution, dude, you're going to have people that are being trafficked that are prostitutes or were trafficked or abused or whatever. So when you reach out, what grown adults do behind closed doors, do you think that they mentioned all the other ones? Do you think those were just the only ones they caught? No. Those were the bad ones. But yeah, I agree, dude. Like what grown adults do on their own time shouldn't really be our judgment, right? But unfortunately, when you're in that game comes the other stuff that we're trying to stop. Like he said, you could do these things every single day and pull in as many people as you want every single day. There's just not enough of them even going on at all. And some do play victim, like Puff Daddy, Cassie, Puff Daddy's chick. She got paid and played victim when I believe she was no different than Ghislaine Maxwell. She was out there doing all the dirt, bringing in all the chicks, grooming everybody, doing all those things. Yeah, that's what Cassie was doing. So, not all of them are, some of them play victim, absolutely. And some of them might be victims from maybe a child. That's why it's so hard to. But going from that topic, talking about sickos and disgusting people, now we're going to go to Jesse Jackson's funeral. I'm going to start off with his son, and I'm going to play what he thought about what you're about to hear about these presidents. And then I'll probably play it again for you. But I'm going to play the clip first so that you guys can get a idea of where this dude stands. Hold on, sorry guys. Right here. Okay. So yeah, Jesse Jackson came out and gave a speech about what he felt about President Obama, President Biden, President Clinton, how they all spoke at his father's funeral. Now let's get into it. Hold on, I'm trying to pull it up, you guys. I'm sorry, I had it ready. Let me pull it up. Hold on. Here it is. All right. And then we're going to get into their speeches and we'll see what he meant by that. Shoot.
Of 3 United States. I listened for several hours of 3 United States presidents who do not know Jesse Jackson.
That's right. Say it again.
He maintained a tense relationship with the political order, not because the presidents were white or black, but the demands of our message, the demands of speaking for the least of these, those who were disinherited, the damned, the dispossessed, the disrespected, demanded not Democratic or Republican solutions, but demanded a consistent, prophetic voice that at no point in time ever sold us out as a people. And it speaks volumes about who the Reverend Jesse Jackson was. Our message has already been delivered today. I can see it all over my mother's face. Rise, Jesse, rise. Give Jonathan Jackson another great round of applause for delivering our family message to the world. Let's hear it for the congressman. There'll be no different message that leaves this service than the one that Jonathan Jackson has blessed us with.
So that was just so that was Jesse Jackson's son explaining how he felt after hearing these speeches I'm about to present you. I'm going to start with Joe Biden. I'll probably go to Kamala Clinton, or maybe I'm going to work my way around, but you got to hear Obama's, because that's the one that he was mad at the post. Joe Biden, I guess, made some racist remarks about him being smarter than everybody else. At least they claim. I don't know. We're about to find out, though. So here we go.
Wife and daughter, son. It's cold out of the blue. It's not easy. No matter how much you loved them, no matter how close you were. So I just like to express my deep sense of, how can I say it, sympathy and understanding. The big thing is left. He left you something that no one else could. He left you character, judgment, honesty. Can't kid yourself about what's right and wrong. President Obama, President Mrs. Clinton, Vice President Harris. Jesse believed, the Bible tells us, that they that wait upon the Lord shall renew their strength. They shall mount up with wings as eagles. They shall run and not be weary. They shall walk and not grow faint. I hope the hell you all got that, but you're going to need help getting out of here. You know,
Hello, my name is Adam Ferrari, the Chief Executive Officer of Phoenix Energy. I look forward to you.
I come from Scranton, Pennsylvania initially, where the fact that I was an Irish Catholic wasn't a very positive thing to be. And then moved down to Wilmington, Delaware, which was segregated by law. And remained that way for much of my life. And, you know, it's interesting that Jesse Jackson, before we knew Jesse Jackson, I was raised with the notion that that hope is all you really have. You can't give up hope. My dad used to say, when you get knocked down, Joey, just get up. Just get up. Well, as a kid, I was a relatively good athlete, a pretty good student, but I stuttered to talk like that. Now, if I told you all earlier, when I was a kid, I had a cleft palate or a club foot, none of you would have laughed. But it's okay to laugh at stuttering. I'm not being critical of you, but think about it. It's the one place where people think you're stupid. Oh, really? I'm a hell of a lot smarter than most of you. But all kidding aside, it makes you feel really small. Makes you feel really small. And you know, when I moved from Wilmington to Claymont, Delaware, a working-class town, I was surprised. I remember being dropped off at the little Catholic school I went to, third grade. And I watched this bus go by every day. And it passed, I was on the call of Philadelphia Pike connecting Wilmington and Philadelphia. And it passed the turn to the big high school, Claymont High School. And the little Catholic school I went to, Holy Rosie, was right on the corner. I remember saying to my mom, Mom, why does that happen? She said, well, black kids aren't allowed to go to school, white kids in Delaware. And, you know, the more I thought about that, I thought to myself, how can that be? How can that work? How can that be right? And so as strange as it sounds, I got involved in being concerned about it. I didn't know a damn thing about the civil rights movement. I was going into fourth grade. But you know what's right and you know what's wrong and you feel it. You know, the fact of the matter is, the man of God and the people throughout the decade of friendship and partnership, I knew Jesse. We're both young. I'm only 83. I'll tell you laughing. I said 40 times 2 plus. But all kidding aside, we came up through the same time. I knew Jesse, and history remembers him. I knew him as determined and tenacious. I knew him as underrated, undeterred, and unafraid. Not a joke. And more than most, Jesse was dedicated with every fiber in his being to redeeming the soul of America. The soul of America. You know, Jesse came up, and I came up together as leaders in the Democratic Party. We had very different backgrounds, in some cases even different views, and never on race. Sometimes we went at it toe to toe. We disagreed on some issues. But that's what I actually admired most about Jesse. His passion. He was passionate. His passion. The courage of his convictions. And you know, his courage inspired a hell of a lot of us, even though we were the same age. You know, with a captivating presence, his stirring words, he would be easy for history to mistake Jesse for a firebrand. I think they'd get it wrong. Jesse certainly created his fair share of good trouble. But through decades of service, Jesse's abiding message is one of unity. That's what he talked about. Through decades of service, Jesse's abiding message of unity moved people in the right direction. Above all, he always sought common ground. I remember telling Jesse that I knew a guy in South Africa I was going to go see. His name is Nelson Mandela. And Jesse saying, how are you going to guys actually see him? By the way, you know, the continent of Africa is going to be the largest continent in the world in terms of population by the year 2050. The largest in the entire world. Watch, man. Watch. And the fact of the matter was that I remember the group of senators going down to, I got elected when I was 29. I wasn't old enough to be sworn in. For real. Some people I wasn't bred enough to be sworn in. But the point was, I had to wait 17 days before I could be eligible to be sworn in as a United States Senator. One of the benefits that had was I wasn't going to leave the Senate. I wasn't going to be sworn in because I got a phone call December 18th before we were sworn in January that my wife and daughter had just been killed and my 2 boys are going to die. So I decided what I was going to do. There was an accident. There was a Christmas shop, a tractor trailer hit. So I decided I wasn't going to go to the Senate. And often pointed out to me, I said, you know, my kids can, the state of Delaware can always get another senator.
I can't keep playing this. I could speak better than this. Is my mic okay, Billy? Is my mic all right? Because exactly what I stopped it for. I got to go to the next one because all this dude's doing is talking about himself at somebody else's funeral. I didn't even get to his disdain for Trump yet. I can't even make it that far, dude. Like, the dude just sat there and is talking about himself at somebody else's funeral. And he does go in for his disdain for Trump. I'm just not willing. If you listen to the very, 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 very beginning of it, he says, I'm going to try to make this under 2 minutes. He goes for 20 minutes, dude, and you can't understand a damn thing he's saying. Somebody said in the chat, turn it up. I turned it up as loud as I could. The guy's got no energy, nothing to offer. So all the people that are in there crying, not you guys, but whoever's crying about, oh, why do you vote for Trump? That was our other option for a very long time. Unreal. And here's our next option. I don't know how long she'll make it in the I don't know how long Kamala will make it either in my playlist. I was really trying to get to Obama, and to be honest, I'm just making a point how self-centered and ignorant these people are, that even Jesse Jackson's son came out and was disgusted by him. I'm just making that point because all you people who think you're social justice warriors have no clue at all. At all. And this should be your first sign of how little they give a damn.
Good afternoon, everyone. Mrs. Jackie, and to the entire Jackson family, on behalf of Doug and my family, we pray with you as we did a couple weeks ago in your home, and we thank you. I thank you. You know, so let me just say, I predicted a lot about what's happening right now.
Okay, what did you predict right now and what's so funny? Hence the question of should politics be brought up at a funeral?
I'm not into saying I told you so, but we did see it coming. But what I did not predict is that we would not have Jesse Jackson with us right now to help us get through this. And this afternoon has been such a beautiful remembrance of his spirit, his life, and his faith. And in a way that Reverend Al talked about it and so many others have, I do think of this afternoon as what it is doing for me to renew my faith in what is possible, fueled by the hope that Jesse Jackson so often reminded us of. I'm reminded of a passage in the Gospel of Matthew, chapter 7, verse 7. Ask, and it will be given to you. Seek, and you will find. Knock, and the door will be opened to you. And so from a young age, we know that Reverend Jackson saw that the doors had.
Remember, everybody, this was going to be your future president. This was going to be your future president. Remember that. Do I need to keep playing it? I mean, she sounds illiterate. I would rather have Hillary Clinton. At least she could speak. Headboard hair.
Been closed to the millions of people across our nation and throughout the world who were otherwise so deserving. And they were doors, of course, to opportunity, to equity, to justice, to freedom. And so he dedicated his life, as we all know, to breaking down those barriers. So when we are speaking of these doors, I will share with you that as a child, I was raised that when you see a closed door, you must knock and wait to be invited in. What life has taught me is that if that invitation is not offered, and if that door remains shut, even after repeated attempts to knock on said door, sometimes you have no choice but just to kick that door open. Reverend Jackson was impatient. He did not waste time waiting. Even when the doors in front of him were barred and bolted, even if those on the other side hesitated or even ignored him, he always devised a way through. Jesse Jackson was a strategist. He was one of the most effective community and political organizers of our time. And he was the founder, I think most would agree, the founder of the modern progressive coalition. Think about the work that he did. In addition to the strength of his spirit and his determination, the leadership of Jesse Jackson was defined by his vision, dare I say his ambition, to tap into what otherwise had been untapped in terms of the potential of a coalition of seemingly different people who could be brought together around shared values and ideals and experience. That's what Jesse Jackson did. He modeled that for so many of us. Over the past half century, that coalition strategy, his methodology, has been the heartbeat for so many movements about progress in our country. Those movements born out of struggle, but resulting in progress. Think about, and it was mentioned, the women leaders that he elevated, like the self-described colored girls, who have been a driving force behind so many campaigns that have been about freedom and justice. Throughout his life, Reverend Jackson reminded us that the many fights for freedom are interconnected. He saw not only the interconnection, but the interdependence of the various.
She's only been speaking for 5 minutes. It's the longest 5 minutes of my life. I am literally done with her. You want to vote for her? You want to vote for Tampon Tim? There you go. That's your president. I can't even listen to her for one more effing second, dude. I couldn't imagine having her for 4 years straight. I mean, that would be the worst 4 years of anybody's life, except for some crazy blue-haired liberal that wants to hear that. But what a mess. I'm going to go ahead and play this and probably just get up out of here and do something later on. I'm going to play this just because I want to finish off this little run. And I'll see how I feel.
It's good to be home. I love you back. The book of Isaiah. Where are you? Now, see, I believe in the Constitution. The book of Isaiah God is looking for a messenger to guide a hardened and resistant people. And the Lord asks, whom shall I send? And who will go with us? To which Isaiah replies, here I am, Lord, send me. To Mother Jackson and the Jackson family, to President and Mrs. Biden, President and Secretary Clinton, Vice President Harris, Pastor Dates, my old friend, though he looking good, Reverend Meeks, Reverend Jenkins. It is an honor to join you today to celebrate the Reverend Jesse Louis Jackson, a man who, when the poor and the dispossessed needed the champion, and a country needed healing, stepped forward again and again and again and said, "Send me." Reverend Jackson's immense gifts were apparent at an early age, even if his circumstances conspired to try to hold him back. Born out of wedlock to a teenage mom, growing up under the oppressive cloud of segregation, confined to schools, sports facilities, movie theaters that were separate and unequal. It was a world where on Thanksgiving he'd have to wait for his mother to come home on the bus carrying leftovers from the dinner she had to cook for somebody else. A world designed to tell a child that he or she could only go so far. That to think otherwise would be foolish or dangerous. And that wisdom required you to accept your lot in life. And young Jesse refused to accept that verdict. He was a born leader, an athlete, a talker, knew how to talk, star quarterback, student body president. He could have succeeded within the confines that were determined for him and had a successful life. But like so many of his generation, so many extraordinary civil rights leaders in the late 50s and 60s, that Joshua generation, he instinctively understood that individual success meant nothing unless everybody was free. So he became inspired by the bus boycotts in Montgomery. He led 7 black students into the whites-only library.
I love how he's censoring the crap out of this dude. How dare you approach it on a different level? I'm not even wasting my time. I'll just talk to y'all. He clearly blasted on Trump. And I'm just going to go ahead and pull this up now before I end, because he clearly blasts on Trump at this man's funeral. I was looking for Obama and Jesse Jackson picture to post, but yet all the ones I found didn't look right. That's weird. I don't know how many there actually was, to be honest. But there was about 100 different ones to choose from. I chose this one because this just shows how far the history goes back, and that Biden, Clinton, Obama all took the time to disrespect Trump at that man's funeral. At that man's funeral. And his son came out and he literally said, "I'll play the 2-minute clip and then I'm out of here." He literally said, to those that aren't paying, that didn't hear the beginning, he said, hold on. Let me pull it up and then I'll go back to that and then I'm out. But this is what Jesse Jackson's son said about all what I was going to play, but clearly YouTube wasn't letting me get it off. So I'm not going to waste, your guys' time. The truth is the truth. Y'all already know. I don't need to. So here we go.
I listened for several hours of 3 United States presidents who do not know Jesse Jackson. He maintained a tense relationship with the political order, not because the presidents were white or black, but the demands of our message, the demands of speaking for the least of these, those who were disinherited, the damned, the dispossessed, the disrespected, demanded not Democratic or Republican solutions, but demanded a consistent, prophetic voice that at no point in time ever sold us out as a people. And it speaks volumes about who the Reverend Jesse Jackson was. Our message has already been delivered today. I can see it all over my mother's face. Rise, Jesse, rise. Give Jonathan Jackson another great round of applause for delivering our family message to the world. Let's hear it for the congressman. There'll be no different message that leaves this service than the one that Jonathan Jackson has blessed us with.
Is my mic real bad? That's right. That's right. You heard what he said. I'm going to go ahead and post this, and I'll be back on after the Cavs game. I'm going to go ahead and post this. I'll be on after the Cavs game. But y'all heard what he said. Do you think people will ever get it? Is my mic after what? You just heard him. All right, I'm good. All right. So yeah, you just heard it, Tracy. A funeral speech is when you get up and you speak at somebody's funeral. And I've spoke at a couple funerals. I've had to get up and speak at my brother's funeral in front of hundreds of people in another state. And imagine getting political and saying MAGA or F ICE or whatever people want to say in the middle of somebody's funeral. It doesn't matter whose it is. It doesn't matter whose it is. And the reason why I have the picture up of what I do is because all of their political, everything that was political was aimed at guess who? I really highly doubt that's what Jesse Jackson won. I can't speak for it, but his son sure did. So yeah. After they asked them not to. So, I just see the hypocrisy there. They don't care. Kamala's not black, and they don't care. They didn't care about the movement. Joe Biden got up and spoke about himself that whole entire time. So did Kamala. And then Obama made it political. He said, forget Mr. Jackson. I'm going to say what I want to say. I'm Barry. My name is Barry. I can say what I want. My boyfriend's got a bigger hog than all y'all. I'll say what I want. I press no for my choice. Yeah, I mean, it should be common sense. It should be 100. But there's some, people out there that can't handle, they're just so far stuck in that little box that they would never, ever, they just won't admit it. It is what it is. I couldn't even get, people wouldn't even, you know what? People didn't even vote because they knew where I was going with it. People didn't even vote. Yes, we all are. That was why I did it. I was not trying to get views on this one. I kept rolling for the people that stuck around so y'all could just see the hypocrisy. You know, clearly YouTube wasn't pushing it. I got better stuff. I got more content. I'm not going to keep going. I'll come back and do it. I'll come back after the Cavs game. But, you know, these people are just sick. I don't know what to say. We're just tired of them. It's just draining. These people are draining to us, y'all. I don't even know what to say at this point. I mean, are you guys drained? And there was a lot to talk about today too. And they just want to drain it. They want to like push everything. You know, that whole Mandami thing, like, dude, we know, I don't know. My opinion, it was no different than that Texas incident. And it's just kind of funny that his own people are doing it to himself. The whole thing reeks of look over here, dog and pony show. Look over here, dog and pony show. And, you know, as somebody who covers this stuff every day and you're trying to take the same stuff that they're giving you, you got to understand they're giving me the same news, y'all. The same stuff. And I got to somehow give it to y'all in a different way. It's like, dude, how do I give you guys, you know, how can I give you guys the truth when everything that's been given to us is lies? So, like, basically, now I got to just tell you this is draining. And it's like, the lies are just so much, they're adding up so much that now you just really are like overwhelmed to the point of we don't even know where, you know, which way's left or right anymore. And it's like once you get to that point, it's like, man, only sometime all answer to me and mine with family. I don't know what the hell that just said. It's global. Sometime all answer to me. Wait. It's global. They can't lie their way out of the whole thing. They dug. Yeah, no. That's what I'm saying. I don't even think they're trying to lie their way out of it. That's what it, yeah, well said, Salty. The truth always comes to the surface in the end. You know, it always does. It has. I mean, look at all this stuff. Look at everything that we've gone through since 2015, 2009, and 10. You know what I'm talking about, 2020 and up. Everything that we talked about has come true. The same people are crying, oh, down with the Jays and that one state, you know, Israel. But yet we've been screaming that forever and a day. You all act like you just learned something yesterday. That's why you don't get a shock value out of me, because it's old news. We already know all this stuff. Obama was deep in with Israel, dude. What do you mean? Obama also dropped a bunch of stuff off to Iran. He was playing the world game. Y'all act like it's just Trump. It's every president. We've been ass deep. Look, when Obama left office, he bought him like a jet or a fighter jet that's nicer than any other military in the world has but ours. And then you have, you know, Biden leaving all of our military equipment in the Middle East for Russia and China to swoop up. They don't care about us, dude. Yeah, exactly, Tracy. It's crazy. It's every president. Yeah. Definitely not Joe. Joe, he did his dirt in the 60s, or not the 60s. I don't know if it was the 60s. How old is the guy? Definitely the 70s, 80s, and 90s, and early 2000s is when he did his dirt. Now he's claiming to be all this great SJW when he put down more laws to put African Americans away than anybody. and I'm sorry to call y'all Americans away. And now you're preaching and telling everybody you're smarter than them in the crowd. He told the whole crowd filled full of black people that he was smarter than most of them. Only a white dude named Joe Biden would get up and say that to a gang of black people at a funeral. How crazy. How crazy. I mean, I don't know what to say to y'all, dude. I really can't. I can't, express to you how dumb it all is. But that being said, where are we at? I didn't start paying attention to politics until I was in my 30s. I'm glad to see the younger generation paying attention sooner than I did. Yeah, Salty, I didn't start until like my 30s either, brother. I was more into the conspiracy of what we're talking about now, which is the truth. What's up, Epsenhauser? I can't tell what that says. Gen Z, then after, dude, listen, man. We're just trying to do it. We're just trying to get, you could tell who the patriots are. The younger, the least they care about America. And you know what? And I'm going to leave it at this. Unfortunately, and this is going to be hard for me to say, I don't blame them in a way. Think of all the propaganda that they've gone through. If you were a kid right now and you had to hide under your desk and you were told in school that it's okay to transition and you're a child, when you're told that it's bad, the things that are supposed to be just normal, like you're told that's wrong. That's going to make a kid look at somebody who's trying to be based and say, I'm trying to say this the best way to be YouTube friendly. You know what I'm saying? It's basically giving them the wrong idea. Oh, yeah, Salty, for sure, bro. For sure. But that's why our generation is the way it is. And then hence the AG from Florida talking about how they're meeting these kids online through video games, etc. And then they're bringing them over to Discord and other apps. And that's how they're getting these kids. But yet everybody's so focused on 80-year-old dinosaurs and what is in a file. It's unreal to me. It's just like, yo, I'm sitting here showing you guys this stuff. I've literally brought to you so much content as far as what's going on, and people come in and complain. They actually come in and complain, yet they also complain they want the files, but they don't want the truth. Oh, my camera isn't even on. I'm scared that, oh, it is on. Okay, cool. But yeah, you don't even, what? So, okay, dude. We see what's going on, but y'all call us names, you call us all this stuff, but looks like these people are throwing rocks in a glass house, if you're asking me. Kids being fed propaganda at a very, very early age. Well said, Salty. Well said, Salty. You can't, what? I mean, it's crazy. Dude, they have reading hour with trans. Literally go to the library and sit on trans laps while these little kids get read books, dude. That's just like insanity. And then some people would say that's not true, but it absolutely is true. That really happens. And if you look deep into it, the people that are doing this, it's not to like show awareness and these are just great, outstanding citizens. Go look at their backgrounds. Go look at their backgrounds and look at their history. I don't know what these parents are thinking, But the thought of even letting a kid sit on Santa Claus' lap on Christmas at the mall is disgusting, let alone some trans at the library reading a book about how great it is to be trans. And you wonder why these kids are so weird. Hello? Hello? And it's just getting more and more and more normalized every single day. And here we are fighting against it. And look how low. Look, 112 people in here. You know what I'm saying? If I was talking about Iran and showing you guys stuff about Iran or Epstein, oh, bro, there'd be hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of people in here. Do you see? Do you see? That's my whole point of showing you guys. Because I just want to let you know that the real truth is very hard to get out there. So sometimes y'all got to read between the lines all the time, really. But just know that when I present something to you guys, I have a reasoning behind it. Sometimes you got to read between the lines. If you stick around long enough, I'll tell you at the end. But there's a reason why I'm showing this stuff. Not to show propaganda, to prove that it's propaganda, first off. And second, to show you how little these people really think of you, because some of y'all worship these people. And just to show you how little these people really give a damn about you. They don't. They really don't care. I mean, do you think Joe Biden at his age gives a crap about any of us? I mean, he lied to the public and said he wouldn't, while he was running for president, I won't pardon my son. He pardoned his son. He doesn't care. He doesn't care. Timothy Walls, whatever his damn name is, running for president. Now, all I'm trying to do is show his damn hearing for his scandal, his fraud. He was also accused of R-ing. He was also accused of R-ing somebody. That's what we're dealing with right now. Nobody said nothing about it, though. While he was running for president, it came out. No one said a damn word. Y'all pick and choose. And I definitely made sense there, little fish. You just don't know how. You just have a very, very, very low IQ. That's all. If you can't catch on, then you're part of the problem. If you can't understand what I just said, then you are the problem, little fish. You goofy. I would probably think you're a predator. For real. What I just said, if you argue with me, I'm going to assume you're a predator and you're sick in the head. Because no normal person would disagree with what I just said. Only some sick freak with blue hair would. That's about it. That's about it. So, anyways, I just can't understand. I just don't get where everybody's coming from no more, man. You guys got me beat. You guys got me beat. But I'm going to come back, after the Cavs game, and I am going to show Timothy Waltz, Larry Ellison, and the rest of the Minnesota People's Fraud, and we're going to watch their case. I've been trying to do it for days, but it keeps getting buried in the background because of more and more news. Hopefully, I'm up to doing it because it needs to get shown before it gets lost in the sauce. What's up, Douglas? Hope you're doing well. Smash the like, smash the sub. I'm up out of here. Much love. I'm out. God bless. Peace out.